Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
It's Dave Scott here on a Friday night here in British Columbia, Canada. R Keith Andrews is here for the ET Connection. Height unknown, weight unknown, sideburns very known. Dirty Filth is here for the art before we bring them on in for an entertaining night of woo. Let's say hello to everyone listening in our chat room tonight. Race fan in the gold medal position. We have Awesome Man B with the silver. Alex Kuhn taking home a bronze. Kevin, Holly, John Swan, how y'all doing? And there's gorgeous Kathleen Hughes. Andrew, the big bad trucker, right there, man. How you doing? It's been a while. Good to see you back. Brown Dwarf, thanks for coming on in. Black Dragon, nice to have you here. One of our favorite veterans who listens to this show. And, of course, the former Marine protecting the grounds of the chat room. Yes, he is awesome. Very, very awesome. Gansfield Files, how you doing? Thanks for coming on in. Lovely Judy of Gaul, pardon me. Thank you for joining us as we continue on with Roll Call. Hey, Nightmare, how you doing? Lovely Lisa Compton, Awesome Ann Palmer, NoCal. Dennis Zuniga is here, another great veteran. Dennis will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Lovely Laura and Huckleberry Charles are here. And let's see, lovely Lavira is here as well. She's early for once. And because she's early, Lavira is going to be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio for Lavira, to the right of the studio. Bigfoot Michigan Rob, nice to see you here. Gorgeous Kathy Evans, always a pleasure to have you here. As we continue on with Roll Call, the Jim Christie has arrived. That's always awesome. And who else is here? Well, let's see. Sugar Britches, nice to have you back. And the gorgeous Trisha has returned. Moving on here. And who else do we got? The lovely Nikki from Seattle. We love you, dear. Hope you're doing well. And who else? Let's take a look. Oh, Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Okay, moving on here. Who else we got hanging on out so far early? The lovely Jenny. We love you around here. Marty Burback, how are you, buddy? And Bobbert. How you doing, Bobbert? Good to have you back. Stunning Pam Smith. The gorgeous Sonia into Another World News. Sonia, how are you? I love the new name change, by the way. And Mr. Lurks a Lot, the lovely Diesel Girl. Kawhi, how are you, man? Thanks for coming on in. And Subatai, welcome to SOR chat. Michael Fontaine, Alexander Ramirez, welcome back, guys. Glenn Dannison, Noble Patrick, nice to see you both. As we continue on with Roll Call, YJ Overlander, he's going into fifth gear for you in 4x4. Yeah, that's the way he rides. All right, moving on here. Who else do we have? As we got a minute to go. Troy, SR71. How you doing, my man? And, well, let's see who else is here. Kim Stanley, welcome to SOR chat. All the way from Tennessee. Glad to have you here. And let's see here. Z-Hut, it's been a while. Z-Hut is back. Z-Hut. Yeah, Mr. Catfish, nice to have you here. And we are caught up. Or Jeremy Womack, welcome to SOR chat. A good way to support this show, ladies and gentlemen. ladies and germs, is the super chat is open. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on a nightly basis. St. Vintage, how's the beard, buddy? 416 Bitcoin, good to have you back. And the super chat is open. You can also shop at our store, spacedoutradio.com, and check it on out there. And guys, we're going to have a great night tonight. So we got about 30 seconds before R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection takes flight on the Woo train. Bombshell Bomber and gorgeous Larry Schulte is back. Wonderful. It's nice to have you early here, Bombshell. All right, we got about 10 seconds before we're going to launch here. We're going to have a great night. It's always fun with Keith. Tim Senor is back for the UFO report later on. But right now, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to get your horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I'm your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. The old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, and check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Let's get right to it. R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection are here tonight to talk about everything woo regarding the aliens and their contact with us humans. Then in hour number 3, we're going to head to the swamp. Our resident swamp dweller has a great story for you tonight. And Tim Senor will be back with the UFO report. Shirky Poo has the news. R. Keith Andrews is a lifelong experiencer out of Kelowna, British Columbia, where during his days and nights, he is helping counsel people who've had their own ET connection. Now, whether you believe it or not, ET connections can be a little traumatizing for people. They don't understand what's going on. They don't understand what's happening to their bodies. They don't understand the changes that are made in themselves. Well, Keith comes in near the beginning of each month to hang out with us and talk everything woo about the aliens. He's one of our most popular guests that we've had on this show all time, and we absolutely love him and his high strangeness around here. R. Keith, how you been doing, buddy? Your sideburns are looking fantastic.
Well, I appreciate that. From my standpoint, it's been interesting. Let's put it that way. You know, I dropped out of sight for about a week there. Of course, I had to take off to my 40-year grad reunion.
You're that old.
Try that again.
You're that old.
I am, or that young. I mean, and quite frankly, I figure I've outlived a third of my classmates. You know. But no, I've been watching what's been going on, and the amount of people that are looking off world or looking for somebody from off world to straighten out the mess on this planet. Or, you know, when are they going to make themselves known? It's like, bad news, they've already done that. It's just most people are ignoring it. But I am finding more people are paying attention to it and putting a little bit more weight behind it. The only problem is there are so many agencies out there talking about the aliens coming to invade us and take over, which could not be much further from the reality behind it.
Well, I wanted to actually ask you about that before we start taking audience questions here. And if you're in one of our chat rooms or on Twitter, put your put your questions in capital letters and I'll read them off to Keith. But Keith, I'm hearing a lot of rumblings right now about demon aliens. And this is coming out from people who've been studying this stuff for years, that the ultra-terrestrials, not the extraterrestrials, are here. The ultra-terrestrials, which combines everything from ETs to time travelers, angels and demons, netherworld creatures and everything. Right. And there's a lot of talk on Twitter, especially the last couple of days, that there's a lot of fear going on in Washington, D.C. and the Pentagon about this, because they allegedly know that these aliens that are coming here are not too polite towards humans.
Well, if you think about that, humans have a bad habit of shooting at them first and then trying to ask them if they're friendly. Now, I don't know about you, but if somebody pulls a gun on me, I usually go with the idea they're not that friendly.
True.
But no, the amount of fear that is being propagated is absolutely insane. But what's happening, and I can understand the government's being afraid. They've known nothing but fear. But if you I had a discussion with their war council, if you will, and they said no. If we were going to invade Earth, first of all, they'd hit it with a subquantum EMP pulse that not only would destroy all the active electronics, but because it fires on a subquantum level, it would destroy all of the electronic components that have been built. Right. Now, once you do that, mankind is dead in the water. And from there, and that would be done from the far side of Mars. Right. From there, they would move into the orbit of the moon and start dropping our own garbage on us. As in satellite expended like dead satellites or live ones, expended rocket pods, and they just drop them with pinpoint accuracy onto the major cities. Net result, the war would be over before mankind even knew it started.
Oh, I hear you there. I understand that. But, it's one thing that, Tom DeLonge, who created Blink-182, the rock band or punk band, and then went on to create, allegedly, the To the Stars Academy. He has been pushing this aliens are bad motive for about 5 years. And now we're starting to see it actually gain a little traction where it wasn't gaining traction before. I understand with what you're saying, Keith. We as humans, especially in a military industrial complex, are very good at selling fear. The media sell fear, the military and the government sell fear, and I could understand where you're going with that. But as human beings, how do we look up into the stars and think differently? Because, Keith, I agree a lot with what you're saying. These entities have been around for millennia. They've been traveling here. All right. And this goes way before ancient Egypt and everything.
Oh, Lord, yeah.
And the point that I'm getting at is this. As someone who is an experiencer and who has seen a landed craft, it baffles me that if they were here to take us over, it wouldn't be that hard. It wouldn't be that hard. They would have done it already. Okay. And
they had done it long before we got to this point.
They would have done it when our high-tech weaponry was a bow and arrow or a spear
or a stick.
Yeah, or a stick for that matter. A stick and rocks tied together. They would have done it way before that. All right. They aren't going to say, well, let's let these ugly little bastards on this planet start to gain some technological advancement, and then we're going to try and take it over for a fair fight or something along those lines. That's not how it works. All right. So for you, I mean, how do we get people to understand if the aliens, no matter where they're from, would have come here to hurt us, they would have already.
Exactly. I mean, admittedly, the off-worlders are taking people and tagging them and tracking them, absolutely. But then mankind's doing the same thing to other races, aka dolphins and fish and birds and you name it. It's just humans have this thing that they don't like being the victims. But no, you've got to look at where it all started, where all this fear is starting from. And unfortunately, I deal with a lot of people. I've come to the conclusion, trying to convince people en masse that this is not the way it's going to go. I look at it this way. I've been trying to tell people for almost 50 years now that no, the aliens are not here to kill people. Although demons are an off-world race, they are not the only race out there, and they are not inherently evil. They just have a different way of looking at the world. But I've been trying to tell people this for 50 years. Now, to me, this is a redundant lifetime. I tried doing the same thing back in ancient Rome. But what's happened is people have taken everything and gone, let's build on fear, make everybody afraid of everything, themselves included. Right? And then people stand there and go, well, we're afraid of our own neighbor. Why wouldn't you be afraid of a reptilian? I mean, people keep asking me, why don't they just outright show themselves en masse and get it over with? Well, it's because society would crumble into panic. And they really don't have any interest in it. They're watching how mankind goes past this little crossroads. Because the crossroads we're at right now is either we're going to unify and turn this into a stable society, or we're going to tear everybody apart and end up back pre-Dark Ages.
Well, it would make sense. It would make sense, Keith. I'm going to tell you that. I mean, sometimes I think we deserve it, but that's for another story for another day.
Yeah.
For you, though, as someone who is not only an ET contactee, but an intuitive, when you look at contact, after everything you have observed, the one thing I love about you, Keith, is you're not saying it's all peace, love, and light and cotton candy and smiling little happy babies, and bunny rabbits and puppies. What you're saying is, look, there are good species that are hanging out here. They're here to help. They're here to do everything to help mankind or humankind move forward. But you're also saying there's the middle part that they really don't care either way. They've got a job to do, and they're going to do their job to the best of their ability and then go home. Then you have the part where you've also experienced the ugly, the surgeries, the horrible parts that come along and the nightmares that come along with any sort of ET abduction. So for you, how do you take all of that and say, look, this is all here, people, but this is where we need to go to find that happy place?
Ultimately, that is correct. Basically, what I've come to understand with the number of races I've dealt with is there is little difference aside from technological level and physiological configurations. There is little difference between humans and off-worlders, or ancient races for that matter. I've run into members, like, for instance, the Techlac cannot all be bad because they wouldn't have a civil war based on the fact they didn't like what their leader had decided on. They wouldn't be fighting amongst each other to try and stop what the leader wanted in the first place. Which, in a nutshell, is the fact that with the Techlac, which are your raptor-like 4.5 to 5 foot reptilians, when they got here looking for minerals to protect their own world. And the reality behind it was when they got here, they found out that there was this neat little population of things that actually tasted really good. And so they decided they were taking everything. And that prompted a civil war. Fortunately, from the human standpoint, they decided on a civil war instead of eradication.
Well, let's get to our first question of the night. This one comes from YJ, who's in northern BC. Keith, do aliens all have an agreed upon line in the sand for how far humans would need to develop before they all come out of the shadows?
Essentially, yes. They've been told that once mankind once they have a global government, now that does not mean a dictator. That means a government that takes all of its people into consideration and is treating them on a stable base there instead of the rampant racism and fear that they're working with. Once mankind socially evolves to that point and has the capacity to technologically get off the planet, that's when they're going to start really opening up. Now, understand, humans have already technologically arrived at that point. Unfortunately, it's the social side that they are still so fear-based, they're dangerous.
Why are they dangerous?
Well, because humans have a curiosity streak that is deadly. You better have a lot of laptops to do this. But if you take a whole pile of laptops out into the Congo or into the Australian outback, where you've got the Aboriginal tribes, the people that do not deal with modern tech at all, and you set a laptop a self-powered laptop on the ground, okay, they will poke at it and push on buttons until they get it to do something. Okay, sooner or later, and this is why I say you need a lot of laptops, because sooner or later, they will get one working before they break it. And the problem there is, where it comes to laptops on Earth, that's not a problem. But in the space, you put a human in there unfettered, just released to run and to let his curiosity go, and he starts pushing buttons. They have weaponry on their ships that will split a planet. Okay. Now, if you get a human going, oh, what's this button do? All of a sudden you're missing your planet. They are not overly fond of that idea.
I don't blame them. For you though, okay, as we start to develop more understanding of ETs, and I don't know if you heard about this earlier this week, Keith, but it wouldn't surprise me if you hadn't. But Dr. Gary Nolan out of Stanford University in California, Ivy League professor, who's been studying the effects on the brain and the body of people who claim to have UFO and ET contact. All right. He is coming up with some amazing results. I mean, we're talking radiation spikes. We're talking change in matter in the brain. And I'm probably not doing this enough justice when I say this, but it's incredible pieces of study here. For you, as you look at it, I mean, since our human bodies are not really made for speed, we're not made for long-term travel. Shoot, we're not even made for short-term travel. How is studies like this going to help align us with any extraterrestrials if we are physically not able to handle space travel?
Because what this research they're doing is actually revealing is that the human genome, the actual cell structure of the human genome, is self-modifiable. You can alter it to handle the stresses of space travel. Okay, to handle the added radiation and the added gravity feeds. These are things that the human body is actually built to adapt to. The human body is designed to handle extreme temperatures and extreme gravitational fields. But mankind has taught itself and indoctrinated itself to fear everything that it's capable of, that mankind is afraid to actually push forward anymore. Okay. But what these studies are doing is they are showing what the human body is actually capable of adjusting to, which will make long-term travel, your long-term hibernation for travel until mankind actually figures out worm travel, where you don't have the years-long transport.
Okay, so how are we then, or do we as a human species then have to mutate, if that's the correct words, in order to handle more ET contact and space travel?
The number one, the word you're using is correct. Okay, but the term would be evolved, but it's not physiologically evolved. Mankind has a capacity now to develop counterpoint technology to handle the space and the extended space travel. They also have the knowledge to handle dietary modifications, to handle and to cope with the sun losses, with the potassium crashes, with the calcium deficiencies that happen because of modified gravity. Okay. So, no, mankind does not have to physiologically evolve or mutate into something more. But it does have to figure out from a psychological or a sociological standpoint that these things are possible without worrying about dying outright. Humans have just been taught to fear everything they don't understand. Now, I mean, fear is a good thing on one hand. Problem is that the people that have been moved into power and have been voted or coerced or lied their way into power are people that are so bent on holding on to that power that they are propagating fear across the globe. And that's where mankind has to bypass. But physiologically, we're already capable of traveling throughout the solar system without a problem. Aside from the fact that technology isn't really great at this point.
Let's go to Glenn Dennison here in the chat room. Are these positive or negative changes that we're seeing?
Well, oddly enough, the answer to that is no. The changes themselves are not positive or negative. But what people do with the changes, that's where the positive and negative come in. Somebody that has the capacity to, in today's world, someone that has the capacity to alter another person's healing. Okay, if they use it for altering the person's healing to accelerate it, then it's called a positive use. If they're using it to inflict pain or to cause illness, then that ability becomes a negative trait. And I've seen this happen in humans already.
Okay, so if you've seen it in humans already, with 30 seconds to go, Keith, what have you seen within humans?
I've seen people take a natural ability to lead people and guide them into the worst possible scenarios, whereas those same people have the capacity to diffuse a fight, diffuse a war, or diffuse a conflict, and they'll guide them down that road. We have the people that have the capacity to heal. I've seen them deliberately cause pain or deliberately destroy relationships simply because they understood the ins and outs. Okay. Now,
Keith, hold that thought. Hold that thought. We're going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. The conductor of the Woo train, R Keith Andrews, and the ET Connection continues on Spaced Out Radio right after this. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Woo in just a couple minutes. All right, Keith, we're clear.
Okie doke. Yeah, no, it's a changing world that we're working in. And the question is what we do with it.
Oh yeah.
You know, that's where we've got the problem.
The main thing is your hair looks fantastic tonight, Keith. You were
thanks.
very Einsteinish tonight.
Oh, you know, I tried electrocuting myself a little earlier.
Yep.
Yeah, I figured it was a neat way to kill off the afternoon. You know, lick finger, putting light sock, away you go.
Mm-hmm. Hey, guys, if you want to pile in your questions for Keith, you can type them on in. I'm going to add them to a special list, and that way Keith is going to get them all. And I am keeping track of everything. And this is when Keith is on, a very audience participation show. And we'd love to get your questions over to Keith. Anything woo, man. Anything woo. We're going to do it. Hi to little Marky Spender out there. Yep. He's a good friend. The kind of guy who paints his tattoos on his body using the dust from Cheetos.
Even in my eyes, that's a little weird.
Yeah, that's him,
but,
though.
You know, at least it's not a permanent tattoo.
Yeah. Watching little Marky Spender walk is like watching somebody with two left feet. Hey, Terry Hall, how you doing, buddy?
No, it's definitely an interesting period. The unfortunate part for me right now is I've seen this same path before. And we're right at that turning point where mankind is going to either have to pull itself together and realize we're all in the same boat. As in, no matter where people come from, and this applies across every race I know of, every one of them, everybody will die and everybody will leave their material stuff behind. You know, you'd think they'd have gone, they'd have figured that one out, that people would have figured that out when they found the old tomb, the old Egyptian tombs.
You would think. Dennis Binky saying in the chat room, when I was young, I had mutton chops for a while. Thumbs up on them burns, buddy. Thumbs up on them burns. Oh, yeah. Woo! Gotta love it.
Well, I appreciate that. I told my other half, I said, I'll take the beard off, right? As you've seen happen periodically, but you're stuck with the burns.
I love the burns, man. Love the burns. Travis W., I got your question. Hey, Michael Godbold, how you doing, man? Look at little Marky Spender. Dave, you need a shirt where the stripes go from top to bottom, not left to right. This coming from a guy who goes to McDonald's and piles back 5 Big Macs, 5 McChickens, 5 quarter pounders with cheese.
At the same meal? That's nice.
Oh, yeah. He thinks it makes him look prettier for Sasquatch.
Yeah, somehow I don't think that's necessarily going to help. But hey, what the heck?
Magneticus Attractus. If you talk to Doug Ward, you might be able to get your moonshine from him. Because normally when he comes on this show, he shares his moonshine with all of us, even though we can't really have it. But Doris, he clucks and moos, and usually whimpers and groans. All right, we got 25 seconds. Thank you to Lala and NoCal for the awesome super chats. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And the store is open at spacedoutradio.com. And if you see Cherry Pepsi Mike, make sure you offer him some ice for his drink tonight. He is the inventor of the piano key tie. All right, here we go, everyone. Second half hour. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate it. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. The conductor of the Woo Train, R Keith Andrews, is back for the ET Connection as Keith joins us near the beginning of each month to talk about everything extraterrestrial and supernatural. And we're going to get right into audience questions here with you, Keith. You don't mind, we're going to start off with Doris here. And Doris is asking, whose technology is better, theirs or ours?
Well, that depends on what you're trying to do with it. You know, theirs is a whole lot more sophisticated. And quite frankly, if you think about it, I don't personally see technology as a better thing, but they can travel interstellar, and through wormholes, we have trouble going over them over a high mountain pass. I'm thinking they've got better technology. But again,
Okay.
it's what the?
You got a submarine sinking there or something?
No, we got a delivery truck, it looks like.
Oh, okay. So he's backing
I
up.
live in an apartment building, and it's way too hot here, so I got the window open, and I got a fan sitting beside me.
I got you. As long as your sideburns are okay, that's all that matters. Are they safe?
As far as I'm concerned, I don't put them anywhere near fire for some reason.
All right. I want to follow up on this question from Doris, though, Keith. And that is, are there civilizations out there that we are actually more technologically advanced, but they may have the ability to already get here?
Absolutely there are. There are a number of races that can get here that do not have technological capacity to do it. They resort to something that is much more akin to magic, to what humans would call magic, aka long-distance teleportation or matter relocation. So they don't have necessarily the technology to do it so much as the physical capacity to. You know, you take a look at the Angelis, they do not require ships. Neither do the Daemons. They can get here all of their own accord.
Right.
You know, and that's the silly part is that humans actually have the capacity, if they would relax and let themselves do it, to do exactly the same thing. Okay, to relocate to the other side of the galaxy if they really chose to. But I suggest you do your research first. Because there's a lot of planets out there you land on, you'll be dead before you settle in.
Very true. Very true. Okay, let's move on to another question here. And this one comes from G West. And it is there a moon or planet in our solar system that they, the extraterrestrials, find most valuable? And if so, why?
Well, I mean, Neptune is actually quite useful as far as its content goes because it's great for the fluidity of its configuration. See, the OTE drive relies on escaping electron shock waves. Okay, and the less dense the atmosphere is, the more you'll see this happen. So, of course, it's easier to refuel on a planet like Neptune than it is on Earth. On Earth, you actually have to come in pretty far if you're going to try and refuel. Which, by the way, has that added little problem of becoming rather on the visible side. But I guess probably the most active planet off here, off of Earth, would be the moon itself. They've got an entire trading post on the other side.
Yes, and I've heard this from many different sources about that, about the trading post or whatever on the other side. All right, let's go to Jenny's question. R. Keith, what do you think of the idea that when the sun sends out a burst that kills our technology, that our space family will come and help us?
Nope. They've made that very clear. Unless it is a direct threat to the planet, i.e. the cooling systems, if it were to wipe out the technology that keeps the nuclear power plants running, or more to the point, keeps them safe, they may step in to do something. But unless it's something of that magnitude, they won't bother. That's something that mankind knows is a potential problem. And therefore, in their eyes, it's mankind's responsibility to take that into consideration to protect their own tech.
Interesting.
So are they likely to come in and stop the power failures from happening? No. Besides that, mankind has the technology to bypass that kind of a flare. They're just choosing not to share it with each other.
Over in our Spreaker chat room, Skywatcher is asking, Keith, were you saying that until all of the population of the world, from jungles to the skyscrapers, become united as one, we will not have any serious interactions with ETs?
Not all of, just a majority. You're never going to get, in all likelihood, all of the Aboriginals to ever adapt to the so-called first worlds. Okay, so they're not expecting that. But they do need mankind to stop shooting at each other based on skin color. They've got to get unified to the point that they understand that humans across the board are of equal value. Okay, and that you do, and the other thing is, humans have to get rid of enough fear on the whole where they don't open fire on an off-worlder and then ask if the off-worlder is friendly. It's just counterproductive to shoot and then ask.
Right. Okay. Well, let's move on. Are you finished with that one? Keith, are you finished?
Yeah, it's just a question of the majority of people have to get to that point.
Right. Right. All right, let's go to Travis. Keith, what are your thoughts on pyramid UFOs?
Well, I think the Alpha Centaurans would be really unhappy if we didn't have them around, because that's the ones they show up in. Are pyramid UFOs, are they a viable option? Absolutely. And they're quite technologically advanced. The neat part about it is a lot of them are like, they have ones that are the same size as ones like the size of the Pyramid of Giza. And there's one other pyramid down in Mexico that is, I believe it's in Mexico or Central America, that is actually bigger than the one in Giza, than the Pyramid of Giza. But the triangle pyramids are extremely long range. They have the capacity. They are one of those technologically advanced races that can actually phase their ship out of sync and travel straight through a physical object. The fascinating part about it is the hieroglyphs in Egypt actually tell you how to do that if you look at the hieroglyphs in a different fashion. Like, don't get me wrong, the hieroglyphs themselves have a language unto themselves, but the layout of the language is also very akin to a circuit board.
All right. Sounds good to me, man. Sounds very good to me. All right, let's move on to another question here from the great audience we have. Let's go to Robert. Linda Molten House says tall whites and Nordics are working with our government. Is this true?
Some of them. It is not an alliance per se, but the answer is yes. Some of them absolutely are. You know, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But do understand they are the Aldebarans and the Nordics are working under very strict guidelines on their end that the government is not overly happy with. Because the government still wants combat weaponry from them and they're not giving it. You know, it's kind of like you just don't give. Oh, hello. You don't just give high-powered weaponry to people that are almost pre-trained or predestined to, you know, to pull the trigger without thinking of the consequences. But yeah, they are very definitively working with them in some cases. Primarily because they look more human.
Right. Let's go to another question here, Keith. How do you recommend we remember our abductions? This is from Michael.
Well, that's actually a relatively easy part. When you wake up, if you remember anything that feels a little off, doesn't matter what it is. Let's just assume, for instance, you remember you felt like you were being lifted into a starship, or you were lifted out of your bed. Write it down right away. Don't worry about the details. Just get the general overview. You can go back over it, and that will help you pull the memory back to the surface. But that's where you start with it. Is you write just the little things. I remember somebody standing over my bed. And write down what you can remember. Did it have one arm? Did it have two arms? Was the face, do what you can as far as describe it as best you're able. Right, but just worry about getting the generality of it down first so that you can hold that. That will help you pull the rest of the information to light.
Okay, let's move to a different question. From Mystic's Walk, is there any way to stop the aliens from abducting people?
That I've seen over the centuries? No. Mankind does not have the technological nor psychological capacity on the whole. I mean, can it be done? Yes. I've helped with an interruption before. It can be done, but there are not that many people that can do it. Because it requires a certain amount, I'm trying to think of the best word for it. Where it comes to technology, just scrap it. The idea that was tried back in the 50s, wear tinfoil hats, doesn't work. All that ends up with is you wearing a tinfoil hat when they abduct you. And unlike a cloth hat, they can't put it back in good shape.
Right.
The short answer is if you can modify the biomagnetic flux and the evolutionary magnetic field around you, then yeah, you can interrupt them. Unfortunately, there are not many of us that can pull that off.
I can hear you there and understand that, but I mean, it's one of those things, dude, where we can only push it so far. We can only try and understand it so much. And it's getting more and more difficult because I think more and more people are having this happen and they are just trying to ignore what is going on. They don't want to deal with it. They don't want to talk about it, especially with today's society. I mean, who would do that? Right?
Well, here's the problem.
Unless you find people like us.
Yeah, and there aren't many. The sad reality of it is so many people are being taught to fear the off-worlders first, that fear weakens the will to resist anything. Okay, it really does play havoc. That's the first thing that people have to realize is, number one, we got to let go of the idea that the off-worlders are here to hurt everybody, or to wipe out people, or they've got some sort of a slave trading agreement. These are not standard. There are people there are absolutely interstellar slave traders, but they are not sanctioned by the consortium. And as far as I'm aware, there are no treaties in place where, the government of the world has said, oh yeah, you can take X number of people. Okay, as far as I'm aware, they used to pull that off. But when the consortium rolled into town and went, no, you're not doing that anymore. The Nordics were really good at slave trading. They'd come in, pick up a whole pile of people and wander off with them. Because people put the Nordics back during the ancient Rome and ancient Greece. Okay, they put the Nordics in the position of gods and went, oh, you're our gods, let's pray to you. And the Nordics were quite happy to take that as an option. And they wanted to slay the extra workers anyway.
Excellent. All right, let's continue with another question from our audience. And this one comes from Applesauce. Applesauce is asking, do different races have different powers? Great question.
And yeah, it really is. And yes, there are some very definitive different abilities. If you take, for instance, like there are many of the races that have, obviously linguistics are a different issue. But when you start looking at, for instance, the Udina have the capacity of communicating telepathically. Okay, as do the Xenon. Now, the Udina are your septopods. They're the ones, if you saw the show Arrival, the ones that kind of look like a seven-legged octopus. Okay, they are extremely telepathic, but they have the capacity to shatter a person's mind simply by the frequency they emit. Okay, and then you've got another race, like for instance, when we take a look at the Korlock are full-blown metamorphs. You will never find a human able to get into a Korlock starship because they don't have a solid form, so their whole ship is powered by bioelectrics. Literally, they go through the ship, they weave their body through the ship, and their own bioenergy generates the power to run the ship with it. Humans can't get into that position without being dead.
I hear you. I hear you there, my friend. All right. Let's go to YJ. Keith, North America seems to have made a deal with the Zetas. Do other nations have deals with any alien races? If so, is it the Zetas too, or opposing ET species?
Well, I'm not entirely certain which agreement they seem to have made, because the Zetas and the Zeta Reticulans, they are here on a research issue. They are doing the hybridization. They are spearheading the most advanced hybridization program available. Now, I do know they've been helping humans comprehend some of the finer details of understanding triple helix. But as far as treaties and what have you go, not that I'm aware of. Okay. And again, other races, like for instance, and these guys aren't off-worlders, but the Chitawari are based out of Africa, and they have some contact with the African tribes. But they're an ancient race. They evolved here.
Excellent. Absolutely excellent. All right, let us move on here, Keith, as we'll go to another question here from Terry Hall. Why are orbs more common in one part of the country and others shaped craft more common in others?
That depends on what the different races are looking for. It literally boils down to that. Okay, it's kind of like archaeological digging. You'll have one country that is interested in one part of the world for archaeology, and another country that'll be interested in a different part altogether. It depends entirely on what that race is researching at the time. Because you got to realize the reason there is so much activity here is because Earth is, in essence, the Library of Alexandria for this quadrant.
So is it divided though? And I like this question, Keith, because a lot of people here will say, "Hey, I'm seeing these Tic Tacs," and I think that's out of popularity because that's the government word of it. The last few years, but a lot of people will say they see disc shapes in certain areas in the lower mainland of British Columbia. There's a lot of black triangle sightings, along with rods. Yet over in Europe or somewhere else, they may be getting a different type of craft. So does it work that way? Do they have us cordoned off?
Cordoned off, not per se. What happens is a race comes into the area and goes, "We want research in this area," and they go to the consortium. They go to the council and say, "Look, we'd like to research in this area." And the consortium will look at their list and go, "Okay, yeah, you've got access to it, or you're going to have to wait a few years because these guys are working on a research project right now that they got here first." But right. Nobody's got a section cordoned off that says nobody can go to it.
All right, let's get to the next question. Hilton is asking, how many countries are working with these sky dudes? Surely can't be just the USA government.
Oh, Lord, no. I'd have to, and I can only give a rough estimate, but you're probably looking, given that as far as I understand, there's something like 147 countries, you're probably looking at close to 50 of them. Anything that has gotten to technological advancement, not necessarily air travel, okay? We're talking ground-based technology. As soon as they get to that point, okay, you'll start getting people coming in. Although some of the other ones also do have that kind of interaction. So, pretty much everybody is getting seen. I mean, if you think about it, there are races that are involved in research in Antarctica. And let's face it, there ain't a lot of humans that live there. It's a little chilly in my eyes.
All right, let's get to another. Sorry, you cut out there, Keith. Did I cut you off there?
Yeah, but that's okay. I'm used to it.
Continue with it because we got just under 90 seconds.
Oh, I was just saying that anywhere that civilization is starting to evolve, and I do mean starting to evolve, there are some races that'll come in and take a look at it. Like Martokians are known for taking their kids, on a school outing into places like the middle of Borneo to watch what humans started as, to go back a fair piece and then move them forward. This is the evolution of humans, of humans on Earth.
Wow.
And then if they want to go to higher studies, they take them over to Mobius.
Why do they take them to Mobius?
Well, because Earth, about 50,000 years ago, colonized Mobius. Like, this is not the first time we've gotten to space travel.
Okay.
It's just the first one that people today are willing to recognize.
Keith, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. We're going to go to break here at the top of the hour as we're going to continue with audience questions and always talking about the Woo Train. Where are we going next? Nobody really knows, but we'll continue audience questions in Spaced Out Radio Land right after this with hour number 2 and R Keith Andrews of the ET Connection. Stay tuned. All right, Keith, we're clear. If you want to chat with the audience, that would be great.
I will in about 10 seconds. I got to run to the washroom, then I will be back. Do you have a problem with my putting the book's website in your chat room there?
You know what? Pass it to me. The reason why is one of our wrenches has to, or myself has to put it up. But yeah,
okay.
for sure. For sure.
I will certainly patch that too through to you.
Yeah.
I'll be right back. Okay. Sad to say I'm overheating here today, but figured I'd come back and bother you. So, hey, Dave. Oh, no, that is not Dave. We're behind a little bit. Anyway, no, it's been rather intriguing, but the one thing that I have found that people really have to start looking at is that everybody is literally the same. Well, thank you very much, YJ. That website that YJ has just posted in the chat room is the site that is now up and running and shows you what every book I've got in print, what it is, and where to get a hold of it, which, by the way, is directly through me. But, the reality is, the people keep waiting for the governments to come out and say, we have off-worlders. Well, the reality is we already know this. So, if you think about the problem here, about humans getting scared of somebody that's a little too tall for them, okay, or people that are, if somebody is a little too tall, or somebody is a little bit of a different color, humans get really edgy. Now, think what's going to happen if you take an Udina. Now, the Udina is a cephalopod, meaning it's got 7 legs. Well, 7 limbs, in all fairness. Every one of the limbs can be used as a hand. We're all born short-handed. They very clearly were not. The neat little part about it is when we start taking a look at the way this world is, humans are already off the planet. We talk about when are humans going to get off Earth. They're already on the moon. They're already on Mars. They're already on Io, and they've got a station out on Titan. Okay, so mankind is already doing this. There is also a piece of technology I know of that they are working on right now, that the scientists are working on, to drag an asteroid into geosynchronous orbit around the moon in order to build a starbase where you can build interstellar vehicles. which is not a bad idea in and of itself due to the change in gravity up there. But I can see some ramifications that people are overlooking.
Hello, gorgeous Manitoba Becky. They call her the Wheat Queen around there, out in Brandon. And let's see, who else? Okay, I'm caught up on questions. And keep adding the questions, people. Put them in capital letters for R Keith, and I will get them to him. And go from there. Thought I killed those bots.
What you found? See, I can't tell which one's a bot and which one isn't.
This Bitcoin thing came up. Thomas, I'll have to hit you up on that again. I must have screwed up somehow. Fab22, good to see you, man. Thanks for coming on in. All right, we got 30 seconds. Thank you to Rich, Thomas, G. West, Lala, and NoCal for those awesome super chats. Mennonite Abe, I've already got that one. Thank you so much for the love, guys. Really appreciate it. And we are going to get to more questions for Keith coming up here momentarily. And I got 10 questions so far. Here we go.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here comes hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, and it is Hapaxanthus. Hapaxanthus is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection as we get together at the beginning of each month to talk about everything that is boarding on the Woo train. And Keith is our conductor. Keith, welcome back.
And thanks so much for having me. And welcome back to everybody that's just joined us and the ones that are still here.
Hey, Keith, I want to ask you, you got a brand new website out for your books. What is it?
rkeithandrews.com. And that's got all 7 of the books I've actually got in print on it. Figured it was time I got something done with it.
All right, let's move on to some awesome questions from our audience. Start off with Starscarred here. How about if they, the aliens, just stop? We domesticated animals for food, so why do they do abductions?
Because they're not trying to domesticate humans. They're trying to understand the evolutionary, the xenobiological evolutionary capacity of them. And to see where the civilization goes, whether it burns itself out altogether once again, or just sets itself back, or whether it actually gets its act together and starts working to actually start exploring as they keep talking about doing. See, mankind got off the world about 50,000 years ago. Mankind already got into space. They got back into orbit back in ancient Greece. And now we're there again. It's just, the powers that be, the powers that write the history, don't want people to realize that's still an ongoing issue. That's something that can be done.
Right. I see that. Okay, let's move on to another question here. This one from Jenny. Oh, Jenny's question. Keith, do all beings have free will?
Absolutely. Every single one of any entity that has life has free will. And quite frankly, in the words of the creator themselves, irrevocable even by the creator. That was a fire and forget thing. It was like, okay, you now have free will. However, whatever body you choose to go into, that will limit what you're capable of. For instance, you won't see a whole lot of grass blades walking around on the highway.
All right,
But
makes sense.
every entity that has life has free will. It's part and parcel of the package.
All right, let's move on here to another question for R Keith Andrews. Angel's Life, or Life, otherwise known as Nikki around here, says the scientist. Well, that's not a question. I apologize. I'll get to Magneticus. Will radiation echo in a bell shape?
If it's got the right resistance in front of it, the answer is yes. But you're looking at subquantum resistances. But yeah, it absolutely does. Okay. Mind you, it's also got an offset harmonic, depending on the radiation, on the base magnetic radiation. See, every form of radiation has a different signature to it and a different resistance level. You know, in some cases, that magnetic field, that radiation requires a solid block. Well, that is a really good one for stopping it. There are other elements out there that will do the same thing. But on lower grade types of radiation, for instance, photonic, there's all sorts of ways of deflecting it.
How do you deflect it?
Well, with photonic radiation, all you do is, quite frankly, a pane of glass will modify its trajectory. Standard optics teaches you that one. Okay, but you can actually solidify the air by a sonic adjustment to the physical configuration of the air molecules that will alter the way photonic or magnetic energy pass through it. And yes, radiation can be cut short by a solidified wall of air, which, by the way, mankind is actually working on.
All right, let's move on to another question here. Mennonite Abe would like to know, is the moon hollow?
No, although it does have catacombs on the surface, like near the surface. But it itself is not a hollow thing.
What's the moon made out of?
Well, I can't give you the geological configuration, but I will tell you it is not made out of green cheese.
Oh, come on, you're ruining it.
Yeah, I know.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. All right, let's continue on here. R. Keith Andrews of the ET Connection. Let's go to Travis here. What are your thoughts on the Dark Fleet?
They're hard to see. No, quite seriously, when you start looking at the Dark Fleet, you're looking at what is, quite frankly, a specialized fleet designed for combat on a level that mankind wouldn't even consider tangling with. Mankind's got this brilliant idea that there's rules in war. The Dark Fleet doesn't. They have one rule in war: win. And they are by no means pleasant about the choices of the way to do it. Mankind is in constant conflict with itself. And this is why I say the off-worlders are no better in a lot of ways than what humans are, because they got their own wars going on. But the Dark Fleet, the reason they're referred to as the Dark Fleet is literally because they are known to pop in unannounced when there's a problem brewing that the consortium doesn't have much use for, or figures is getting out of hand.
Got you. All right, let's go to Vaughn in Edmonton. Keith, how long have humans been capable of interstellar travel?
Well, the first time that I recall humans actually gaining interstellar travel was about 50,000 years ago. They actually perfected it. And then, of course, they blew themselves into the Dark Ages. And that was done by a pure accidental experiment. Very short-sighted experiment that quite frankly, we didn't think about the outcome. You know, they got back to orbital travel back in ancient Greece. Okay. And then, of course, now we're back up there again. But, you know, interstellar travel, that was 50,000 years ago. Mankind has never got back to that unification level. Because for some reason, humans still have this really weird idea that war is good for technological advancement. And it's actually very hindering for it. Sure, it gives people motivation. But I'll tell you, it's a lot easier to focus on technological advancement when you're not worried about your lab being blown up.
Very true. Very true. All right, let's go to another question here. This one from Hilton. Keith, did humans land on the moon in 1969, or were we just taken there?
Oh, no, they landed. That was not what ended up happening. I think I found out the other day why there's this discrepancy. See, back in 69, they did land on the moon, as in take humans, put in spaceship, and land over there. Okay. Problem was that they wanted, when they were in that whole space scenario there, they wanted some better pictures. Okay, because let's face it, you can't exactly take the right lighting up there. So what they did in Hollywood was they set up a landscape based on what the astronauts came back with, and said, "Okay, here's the moonscape. Now let's do some advertising to bolster the interest." And I think that's where humans got this idea of the trip to the moon didn't happen. But yeah, it very definitively happened. They've also been going back there on a regular basis. This isn't, I heard about 20 years ago, they said they hadn't been back, just after the turn of this millennia. They were saying they hadn't been back since 69 or since 70. I think it was 78, they said was the last one, the last 25 years. And they have. I cannot prove it. Okay. I'm not silly enough to try and prove it, but I will tell you, this has been an ongoing back and forth run.
All right, let's continue on here. And let's go to John Music. Why do... Oh, maybe not. That's not really a question for... Oh, man. Our audience is awesome. Big J is wondering, which race of beings were the ones that Travis Walton encountered? Do we even know this?
Yeah, combination of the Greys and the Nords. Yeah, I know that was a short answer.
I wasn't ready for that.
Always supposed to think about it. No, the reality is the Greys quite often will take Nords with them, because with the Nords looking more humanoid, well, they can pass for humans easy. But with the Nords looking more human, it's easier for them to calm a human down. And of course, with Travis, talk about a disruptive disruptive period in your life. But the Zeta Reticulans are not equipped to handle the strength of humans, much less a logger in his prime.
Very true. Very true. Do you think, going back to the Travis Walton incident, that they accidentally hit him with that light?
Well, this is going to sound real blunt on my part, but it's not a question of do I think. I know for an absolute certainty it was an accident. The problem was they were trying to do some work, and nothing against Travis. I've met the man. He's an absolute wonderful man. But curiosity is a human stock in trade, and that's where the problem came in. You know, but this whole issue that he was hit with that light was not an intentional thing on their part. Not from anything I've ever recalled from it. And I mean, do understand, I spent over a couple of years. I spent a couple of weeks with him in a retreat when I was over at the Experiencers Speak conference.
Yes. No, I understand that. Okay, let's go to another question here. This one comes from Mystic's Walk. I saw a black triangle up close back in 1976. Was that U.S. military or alien?
In all likelihood, I mean, there's a couple. It's possible it was one or the other. I cannot say for certain. But in the early 70s, the black triangles were likely just simply consortium birds. Okay. Yes, there are black triangle ships now. Okay, but if I recall correctly, the humans did not reverse engineer them enough to make them operational until somewhere in the late 80s, early 90s. So if it was back in the early 70s, it was likely a consortium ship.
Is that where we got the black triangle idea from?
Quite frankly, yes. As far as I'm aware, I don't know where else they'd have got it from. Because I'm pretty certain they didn't come up with it from a burnt taco chip.
I don't get that, but okay. All right, R Keith Andrews in the ET Connection. Continuing here, let's go to Donna. What are the races that use the triangle-shaped craft?
Well, there's a lot of them because the triangle-shaped craft are consortium. They're consortium ships used for scouting, used for collection, used for a number of things. But because they are consortium ships, any race that is a member of the consortium may be on board one of them. It's not like they are specifically one race's ship. They are just simply the overall government ships.
Are they shared?
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Is the consortium itself, which is a governmental body, builds those ships, and those ships, people from any one in 2,500 different races may be on.
Yeah, but what I'm asking is, are they shared with humans?
Oh, humans have been taken on them. Absolutely. But do humans fly them? No, not to the best of my knowledge. You might get one or two, but there are no permanent, if you will, permanent pilots or permanent crew that I'm aware of. I mean, they're a fabulous work of art. But on the whole, because humans are not full members of the consortium at this point, it's not like they put put humans on all these different ships. Sure, you may end up on one if you're being abducted. It would not be a shock to find you on board one. One of the common things I've heard people talk about is when they get abducted, they end up finding themselves on a long bench with mist or dry ice type fog all over the place, and they're sitting there with a whole pile of other people. But the fog is usually so dense it's hard to make out the facial features, even of the people right next door to you. And that quite often is on a consortium ship. On one of these triangles.
All right. Let's continue on, Keith. And let's go to Marlena. Why are there so many UFOs gathering in one area in one day?
That depends on what's going on in the area. Quite frankly, it's that's kind of like asking, why do so many people stare at a fire and gather around when there's some sort of an accident? If there's something going on at that spot, because the issue around many of the races here, they are here to study human behavior and the evolution of civilization. Wherever there's something exciting going on, you can bet they're going to start showing up. And of course, once in a while, you'll get a commander, a crew commander, that'll go, let's have a little bit of fun with the hairless monkeys. And they'll bring an entire squadron in just to see what kind of reaction it elicits. And yes, in answer to that side of the question, some aliens do have a sense of humor. Bit twisted, but a sense of humor nonetheless.
Michael is wondering, what race is the Solar Squares?
That is an excellent question. I'd be more inclined to think that is more a ship than anything else. In all fairness, I've not heard of the Solar Squares. I have heard of different photonic race of a photonic race. Okay, but they aren't square shaped. So on this one, I'm going to have to say I'm not entirely certain which one he's referring to.
All right, moving on. Applesauce is wondering, who are the chrononauts?
The chrononauts are a term for people, and they're people that are trying to propagate this idea that traveling backwards in time, they literally are studying temporal wavelengths. But one thing they did that they figured out, is they literally have figured out you can go forward in time, there's no problem. Problem is you can't go backwards. You can look backwards, and this is what they spend most of their time trying to do, is look backwards to see to compare what was done to what ended up coming out. And then they spend their time, the majority of them are major eggheads, if you will, where they will go, okay, we'll look at that. That's what happened. Here's what the outcome was. Now let's run a scenario and see what would have happened if this had gone down this road. They look at theoretical chronology. But they have found out very, very simply, you cannot go back in time. Okay, because you're still moving forward. It's just when you move forward to go backwards, your backwards is now the forward. And coming back to the present time, which is, by the way, if you could get out of the present time, that'd be great. But the chrononauts are an interesting bird. They're kind of like talking to mathematicians on Earth. Pure mathematicians are absolutely bizarre with the way they look at the world. These guys do the same thing on interstellar with regards to interstellar travel.
Very cool. Keith, I'm going to hold up here on asking another question right now because we are literally right up against a break here. So we're going to make sure that we have that time to take us out, relax a little bit before we get right back into it. We got R Keith Andrews for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio and a little ditty we like to call the ET Connection. And Keith is always a lot of fun to listen to. And you know what? As he would even say to himself, take what he says with a grain of salt. And that's what makes him so fun, conducting the Woo Train on Spaced Out Radio here in one of our chat rooms. Make sure you put your question in capital letters. We'd appreciate it. We'll be back right after this. Spaced Out Radio. All right, we're clear, Keith.
Okie doke. I got my coffee. I got my water. I got airflow. I'm good. No, it's definitely an interesting world that we're living in right now.
It is. It is. I've got 6 questions for the remaining half hour. I'd like to try and get a couple more in. Chris Holm, how you doing, buddy? Where have you been hiding? Chris Holm is an amazing artist as well.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you. He's actually the one doing the artwork for the Races of the Worlds.
Oh, he is so talented. So talented.
Yeah, I could not be happier. I'm actually working on a new set to send him. We've got
nice.
I think we've only got about 15 races left to do before I can put the second printing out. And then I'll start working on the other on volume 2 as far as getting the work done. But yeah, I absolutely agree with you. So what I've done, and see, the neat thing with Chris is what I've done is I'm getting him to do the basic the races for the Races of the Worlds. And then with the Elder Balkan Chronicles, where some of those races are used, I take the template that Chris comes up with and go, here, and hand that over to my artist in England that is doing the work on the Elder Balkan Chronicles, and go, here's the template. Now make that, put that into the book so that we can work with it. It's working out absolutely beautiful from my standpoint.
That's awesome. You deserve it, man. You deserve it.
Now it's just a question of figuring out how to market it properly, because ideally, I'd like that to become my income.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Hey, Gary Rusin, how you doing? M. Dragamot. Wow, it's been a while. Oh, that's Vivster. Vivster. Nice. So sweet.
Yeah, I'm just sort of scanning here, and I know you got like 4 sites you're looking at. I'm just looking at one on YouTube, and it looks like you're getting a bunch of new questions coming up.
We got a few. Hilton's right in on this one. Hilton's dropping elbows. This is going to be his hat-trick question.
Okay. It's so much easier for me to answer questions than it is to try and put things together in just a, here's a bunch of information for you.
Pam bought grapes yesterday because I was so hungry the other night. I actually, during one of the breaks, went upstairs and grabbed my bag of grapes and brought them on down. Oh, it hit the spot. Purple or green, Pam? Purple or green? I'm a purple grape guy.
Yeah, I find they're a little, shall we say, calmer of a flavor than what the green are. The green I find a little more bitter most of the time.
You know what I did after the show last night? I pigged out on a container of blueberries.
I've done that before.
You're about this big. Yeah, I finished that. I
eat those. I actually, every 2 or 3 days, I'll have oatmeals with blueberry, with a half cup oatmeal and with a half cup blueberry. That simple maneuver dropped my blood pressure from 180 over something to down to 130 in a matter of 2 weeks.
Very cool.
Back into normal levels.
All right. We got 30 seconds. Thank you to Chris, Rich, Thomas, G West, Lala, and NoCal for this amazing super chats tonight. Very much appreciate it. Really do appreciate it. It's a good way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And we got 10 seconds here. Dave's going to pop another cough candy and go from there.
They seem to be working.
Past the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection as he hangs out here once a month to talk about all things weird, strange when it comes to contact with extraterrestrials. Let's get started on the audience questions right off the bat here, Keith. And this one comes from Sandra. Are aliens making hybrid super fighters?
Well, they've been doing that for millennia. And the answer would be yes. The fascinating part is that's what humans are trying to do. They're just not as good at it. You know, however, that being said, what they do is they're building them because they're trying to deal with, in most cases, they're trying to deal with an ongoing war, not because they're trying to conquer somebody else, because the consortium is not built on conquering. They have their wars amongst themselves, but it is not quite the way, it's not quite laid out the same way.
All right, let's move on. Different question here. Let's go to Fab, who is asking, what tall race is clothed, with a monk-type uniform and hooded?
There's a couple that may fall into that category. Okay, your watchers definitively do. Wait a minute. Did you say a white cloak?
No.
No.
What tall race is clothed, not cloaked?
Okay. Yeah, the monk type thing. Your Aldebarans do tend to wear something that resembles a cloak a lot of the time, and the Watchers absolutely do. Okay, you'll even find a lot of the black-eyed children wear what looks like a cloak half the time.
Anunnaki also dressing in monk-type clothing robes that are covering the head as well.
Some of them do, yes. Although that's, and then with the Anunnaki, that's a specific sect of the Anunnaki, or a specific, if you will, occupation. Like, all Anunnaki do not actually they don't all wear the cloak. More often than not, that's their religious leaders that wear those.
All right. Well, let's move on to a different question here. Blue Cruz is asking, what role does the inner Earth play for aliens, humanoids, and cryptids?
Well, for aliens, it's a nice place. It's another place to go and see what's happening as far as another civilization and how it's evolving goes on. The ancient races live there, and the cryptids run between the two. It's quite an active little location down there. But aside from that, and of course you got mankind trying to find the entrances. There are a couple of easy entrances to get to, but cryptids are known to disappear into the inner Earth. Some people call it inner Earth pit. Some people call it hollow. Some people have this brilliant idea that it's Middle Earth, which is an interesting idea, but usually not a name that is overly used. But yeah, it's got a lot of different purposes depending on the people. It's a great place if you've got a ship that's down, if you've got a smaller ship that is having trouble. It's not a bad place to go and set down on the ground, because the ancient races won't try and tear it apart. Well, most of them won't. Because obviously, well, on Earth, on the surface, if you set a starship down on the ground, the humans are going to be all over it like white on rice. Okay. Most of the ancient races don't bother.
Okay, let's move on to another question here, Keith. This one comes from Love v. Love. Are you discussing the Galactic Federation?
That is another term that many people use for it, yes. The Galactic Consortium, the Galactic Federation, it's basically the same name for the same it's another name for the same organization. Basically, the governing body that keeps the member races working in a relatively cooperative fashion. With any civilization, you have to have laws. Okay, especially with everybody having free will. If you don't have laws, then you're going to have nothing but chaos. So the consortium is simply the overall governing body that lays out the laws that everybody follows, which is why Earth is not why Earth, when we talk about it being under quarantine, no, but it is a protected planet.
Okay, so what is the purpose of the Galactic Consortium for people who may not know?
It is literally the governing body of approximately, at last count, of approximately 2,500 member races. And what the consortium does is says, okay, here's how you operate in if you will, in open space, in local space, as in the space around the planets of the member races. The consortium doesn't control the space there. But once you leave that area and you're now in between planets, now you're under consortium law. And they're the consortium is the one, the Council of 12 are the ones that say, okay, these are the laws that apply to everybody. And this is what you can get away with. This is what you can do. On your own planet, set your own laws up and carry on. But the consortium has a very strict law. If they've got a protected planet and a member of the consortium, a member planet or a member race goes, we're going to invade that planet. Like, for instance, if any one of the member races were to say, we're going to invade Earth, okay, the way that would play out, aside from mankind wouldn't have a prayer against them, the consortium would step in, stop the invasion, and then they would go back to the originating homeworld, blow the homeworld up, and then blow up the world that holds their secondary and their tertiary governments. Then they would ban them from the consortium for the next, several generations. Cuts down the number of people willing to break the consortium law. Because you got to remember, the main battleship and their flagship has a gun on it that is, if you were to take the Titanic, turn the Titanic broadside, you could slide it down the barrel and still have room to maneuver. Okay, now this is the kind of weaponry these guys are carrying. And what they do is they go, okay, here's the laws that you have to follow now that you're a member of the consortium. And we will support you as best we can, as long as you stay in there. Stay within our guidelines. But ultimately, that's what their purpose is.
All right, let's move on to another question here. YJ is asking, Keith, what is the role of whales and dolphins with extraterrestrials? What about the octopus?
Well, it's funny you should mention the octopus, but the whales and the dolphins are an evolving race on Earth. Okay, yes, the whale folk, they're both mammals that have some of them did evolve on Earth. Whales originally were actually land-based. Well, more to the point, they evolved into land-based and then retreated to the water. But they do have a very definitive link with the off-worlders. There's a lot of high-level communication going back and forth. The octopus is a whole different ballgame. Okay. Now, again, we do have to realize that the octopus has changed since it got here, but the Udina are sort of responsible for the octopus in the first place. Okay, I suspect, I'm not entirely certain of this issue, but I'm pretty certain that the octopus themselves were from an original Udinal race, and we're talking millennia back, that ended up here. And of course, over the centuries, they have modified. They are no longer, the ones here are certainly not interstellar capable.
All right, let's move on to another question here, Keith. Starscard is asking, what race of aliens have wide, thick chins, resembles cherubimism in humans, but they are tall, thick, and the face shape is more standard than humans with cherubim syndrome?
Just trying to piece together the cherubim reference. Don't take that the wrong way. But that being said, see, that almost sounds like you're dealing with a Moldakian half-breed. Moldakians have a staggeringly wide chin. But if you're dealing with a hybrid Moldak, okay, they would look very similar to that. Okay, because they wouldn't have all the added, if you will, tusks and teeth that are usually accompanied by them. But specifically what she's referring to, I'm not 100% certain which group and which one. Now, I mean, with 2,500 races, I haven't run into all of them yet. Still working on that.
Okay. Another question for you, Uncle Keith. This one comes from Hilton. Keith, grain of salt, what percentage of what you are saying tonight is absolute fact? Well, let me answer that one for you, Keith.
Okay.
Keith is here to give his opinion on what he's learned from his contact. All right. A lot of times extraterrestrials don't give things or don't give you time to take notes or type in and into your cell phone what you want to say or take pictures or video or, like a 60 minutes type of interview. So it's a little bit different. Keith goes by what he's learned and what he knows. Keith, you want to expand on that?
Yeah, I never claim anything is absolute fact. The only thing I will absolutely say is I will not lie to make people happy or to make people think that it's a great setup. The information I give is literally what I've gone through. Okay, I don't research. There's a lot of times that people have asked, do you know about this event? And the answer 9 times out of 10 is no. Okay, but the information that I give, and I've asked myself the same thing. Because of the fact I'm also a science fiction writer and have been playing D&D for 40 years now. Well, actually 45, but You know, I actually asked a shrink years ago how to tell where the memory starts and where the imagination takes over, as it were. So everything I can say, and I've had enough people that have corroborated a lot of what I've been telling people, that I just go with it. This is what I know. Now, will I call it absolute fact? Heck, I won't tell you absolute for absolute certainty. I'll wake up alive tomorrow. You know, so can I swear to absolute fact? I'd never do it. But I will tell you, I absolutely will not lie to somebody to make it sound good. I mean, I've hid from the world for a lot of reasons, that being one of them. You know, as I've told Dave multiple times, my life is more like science fiction than anything else. But I absolutely encourage people to check out for themselves. Don't just take my word for it. Do your own research. But as my older brother put it, he goes, look, he says, take a look at the evidence you've got, but watch for that piece that derails the whole thing. You know, you just keep looking at the information. I just keep running into the same situation. But my life started off from an abduction standpoint. And rest assured, I'm not having a lot. There are a couple of races I just don't get along with at all. You know.
Awesome. All right, Keith. Let's move the answers forward. Dragamont is asking, are humans part of this consortium? I don't recall ever mentioning it.
Not yet. Because they will not be brought into the consortium until the majority of people or at least the majority of the governing people, have come to the realization that humans across the board are the same race. They're the same species, and they've got to start treating them as equals. Until they reach that point and get away from the idea, and this is why it's going to take years, until people start realizing that no matter what the person is, they are of equal spiritual value. Until people stop looking at other people and go, oh, he looks different, therefore he's evil. They're not going to be brought into the consortium. They will be brought up, they'll be, educated, they'll be interacted with. But as far as an actual member of the consortium, that happens once we have a one world government. That's the one consistent factor in all of the member planets, is they have a one world government. Now, this does not mean a dictator. Okay, this means a unified planet where everybody sits there, kind of like an oversized UN, without all the arguing. Okay, once mankind gets to that level of socioeconomic interaction, then you've got a doorway opening to bring them into the consortium. Okay, but until then, they are, if you will, on probation. Kind of like if you look at the Hells Angels. You can spend years riding with the Hells Angels and not be a Hells Angel, simply because of the stipulations that they have as an organization. Same thing happens with the consortium. They just do it on a much bigger level.
There you go. Good, solid answer. Let's go to Justin. What are we protected from?
Quite literally, invasion. The triple helix matrix and the subsequent neural net that surrounds this planet because of the living organisms here is a massive repository of information and of data. It's that data that is contained, that is protected here. Okay. And with that in mind, the consortium has stepped in. Like when the consortium first got here, the Nordics were on board. They were already here. They'd been here for years and had taken up because humans at the time looked at the Nordics when they arrived and went, oh my, you're gods. And the Nordics went, Okay. And you want to give us stuff for free? Great. That works out well too. So the Nordics took on the idea of, okay, you want to call us gods and you want to laud us with praise and give us stuff. We'll take it. And then the consortium shows up in the area and goes, okay, Nords, you're out of here. You are not pulling this god thing anymore. Just not going to happen. So this is why all of a sudden in a very short period of time, the Roman and the Greek gods all of a sudden just vanished. It was because the consortium showed up and went, you're not pulling this stunt anymore. Yes, you're more advanced than them, but that does not make you better than them. So this and there are humans that have the same idea that they are above everybody else. Sooner or later, those people will die out. The trick is whether or not the new ones being raised are getting the message that they're not better than other people.
Well, there you go. There you go. We got 3 minutes to go here with you tonight, Keith. And let's see. I'm all out of questions. Well, let's go to Nikki here. Many people are stating there's a warning beacon for Earth. Is there a warning beacon orbiting Earth? Warning ETs not to do whatever about Earth?
A warning beacon? Yeah, I guess you could call it that. Basically, it's a beacon that says this is a protected planet. Therefore, invasion is ill-advised because if you try and invade the planet, we will blow yours up. It's not like they go, oh, we'll take a vote and see if it's a good idea. It's just that's a draw line. So yeah, there is a, and it's not exactly a physical beacon. So you're not going to see something along the lines of a human style satellite up there, because they work on subquantum triphasic technology. Net result, humans aren't going to see it at all, and they also aren't going to run into it.
Let's go to Hilton. What was the mistake that sent humans back to the Stone Age?
Well, way back, and we're talking 40,000 years ago, there were roughly 10 billion people on the planet that were all mentally linked. We had physical manifestation down to a fine art. But the mistake, because we could literally, you could think you want an apple, it would show up in your hand. It would just materialize out of the component parts. And where the mistake happened was somewhere along the line, and we never did figure out if it was an adult, a child, male, female. All we knew is somebody came up with the idea of what would happen if we all stopped our physical hearts at the same time. Now, bearing in mind, we had 20 and 30 story buildings. Well, in all fairness, some of the real skyscrapers were over 100 stories tall. Okay, but they were all held together by mental thought. Well, when we all stopped our hearts, half the population was dead like that. Right. Well, you kill off half the population, and the buildings that are there all of a sudden cease to exist. Well, by the time we figured out what was wrong, okay, you've got 500 million dead, and then of course the resulting collapse left millions, well, quite frankly, left billions dead from the actual collapse, and then from resultant disease. And that's a real Reader's Digest version. Net result, they dropped from 10 billion to 10,000 in less than a year.
Keith, we got to say goodnight to you. Quickly, tell everybody your new website and your YouTube channel.
New website is rkeithandrews.com. And you can find me on YouTube at R Keith Andrews as well.
Always a pleasure, R Keith Andrews of the ET Connection. Thank you, buddy, for coming back on. We will talk to you next month.
Appreciate it.
Coming up next, we're going to head to the swamp for our Swamp Dweller story that Tim Senor has, the UFO report. Spaced Out Radio continues with Hour 3 next. Great job, Keith.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, buddy. You're welcome.
It's always a joy coming here.
Yeah, I know. We love you here. We love you here. So we'll let you go here, Keith. I got to go get ready.
Absolutely.
If you want to hang out in the chat room like you normally do, people would love to have you here. Or if you want to chat with them for a couple minutes while I take a bathroom break, I don't mind either.
Yeah, I can absolutely do that. I'm not in a hurry at this point.
All right. Well, I'll be right back.
Okie doke. Yeah, the reality is, I probably didn't realize he left the volume on. The reality is, if you've got questions and we didn't get to them, if you look at the bottom of any of the videos I've done on my YouTube channel, you'll find a whole list of ways of getting a hold of me. Okay, if you can't find it there, find a way there. Absolutely ask Dave. Right, and just drop me a line. I will do my best to answer the question for you. The reality is, do I know all the races that are out there? Absolutely not. In Races of the Worlds, I've got 69, and I think I've got about another 50 in Volume 2 that I'm working on. But, the reality is, Hilton, the question that we were covering there regarding what happened when society buckled, it really boils down to, we scared ourselves so badly that we cut off communication, and the net result was that technology collapsed. Well, we didn't really have a lot of technology. Everything was manifested. Right. So, of course, when the society collapsed, no record of it. That's a bit down the road. I'm just looking at this, and Ryan is just commenting about Ryan Williams for president. In 2040, which I think is a bit down the road here. But hey, what the heck? The reality of it is, there is not a lot of difference between humans and other races, except physiologically speaking and technologically. But they still got the same drives, and many of them still have the same spiritual hang-ups. One of the things I find really fascinating where it comes to, like, science fiction movies are fabulous. And the one thing, when I talk about the Elder Barking Chronicles I've been writing, the Races of the World, that's a reference manual. In the Elder Barking Chronicles, you end up seeing some of the social interaction of the different races. And the reality is, can I prove it? Not a prayer. Although I have had enough witnesses for what I've been going through, and for me disappearing for extended periods, and no, I'm not giving names of the different witnesses. It ain't going to happen. Okay, that's their privacy. The reality of it is that, from my standpoint, other people have their life, and I've maintained my own privacy for for the better portion of 60 years. I've only just started coming out into the public eye at this point in order to make things happen. You know, in order to kind of bring people back on track here, or at least try to. Thus far, not working that well. Welcome back, Dave.
All right, Keith. Got to say goodnight to you, my friend.
We absolutely do. I got a few other things I got to get dealt with anyway, so... But thank you so much.
Always a pleasure to have you here, buddy.
That last little question, Hilton. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Bang on the money. I just noticed a question going by. Which one was the most realistic?
All right. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you. Love you, man.
You have a great night.
You too, brother. See you soon.
Ciao.
All right. R Keith Andrews, everyone. ET Connection. We're going to get going in just a few seconds here. Thank you to Chris, Rich, Thomas, G. West, Lala, and NoCal for the amazing super chats. Very much appreciate the love that you have for SOR. We appreciate it so much. We love you back. And everybody, thumbs up if you don't mind. It really helps with the algorithms. Here we go with hour number 3.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, at KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Let's see, where are we going here? Hapaxanthus. Hapaxanthus is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bubblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Now, before we get to the Swamp Dweller, we got a special birthday wish to send on out. Our good friend Jonathan Davies, who will be a guest next week on this show, well, it's his daughter's birthday. Daisy May, hitting the ripe old age of 14. She's up early over in the UK to open up her presents. Happy birthday to you, Daisy May. May all your next few years not trouble your father. Yes, we all have daughters around here, but seriously, happy birthday to you from all of us at Spaced Out Radio, and stay awesome and have an awesome year. Here we go. Let's get to the swamp.
Hi, Spaced Out Radio listeners. This is Swamp Dweller. It's time for your nightly dose of spookiness on the show. If you have an interesting encounter or a spooky story that you would like to share, be sure to submit them in at swampdweller.net. You can also find our YouTube channel at youtube.com/swampdwellerreads. Now, let's chill out, relax, and together, let's enter the swamp. In July of last year, I went up to southern Norway, where I have a little holiday cabin. The cabin is situated out and above the little town of Eve, approximately 65 kilometers from the port of Kristiansand, to the north. To get to the cabin, you have to drive up from Eve, on a paved road, which takes you up into the hills. You pass lakes on the way and a handful of houses, and lots of forest and water runs. My cabin is on the very end of that area, 16 kilometers into the wild. Besides one other cabin that is situated 500 meters away and only occupied from time to time, I am all by myself out there. My cabin is above a small lake resting on a slope. On the third day of my arrival, I went outside into the cabin's deck to have a cigarette. It was about 10 p.m. and I'm still very light outside because it is summer months and the sun never really goes down here. I heard noises, water splashing and grunts, coming from the lake below. The shore is about 30 meters from the deck of my cabin. I walked up to the edge of the deck to see what it was because it really freaked me out. When I looked down to the shore, I saw a hunched-over, hairy creature trying to pull a dead moose onto the shore by the neck. The thing turned around and has apparently noticed me, standing there looking at it. It had swung its head around violently, giving me a grim kind of look. It turned its back to me, and it casually ran into the bushes. The creature was about man size, 180 centimeters or so. The weight I could guess was probably no more than 250 pounds. It had a protruding snout like a wolf's, upright ears, not too big, and was covered in taft-like brown and black hair. Its arms and legs were normal size. The legs were straight, and the overall appearance was pretty slim-bodied. I went back inside the cabin, panicked and locked the barricaded door, and blocked the windows. I went out for an axe, and I kept it in the utility room by the front door usually. I sat in a chair by the back door, lights off, only the oven and fireplace was lit. I could not believe and make out what it was, and I was freaking out even more at this point, realizing that far down south in Norway, there are basically no wolves or bears. 10 minutes in, I heard the most radical howls that I have ever come by. They sounded mad, crazed in a way. I did not even try to get to the car, which was right out front close to the main entrance. I was petrified and could not shut one eye the whole night. The howls and commotion outside in the bushes went on pretty much all night as well. The next day, I carefully left the cabin and went for my car to head into town. The problem is, I have no internet or any connection out there. I went straight to the police station to file a report of what I saw. The officials told me it must have been a big dog trying to put me off. They did not laugh as I expected. They did not look me in the eyes and started talking about each other in Norwegian. They looked at each other in the eyes, however, seeming a bit nervous. I was complimented outside because I was getting pissed about being put off like that. I received no copy of the report or anything like that. The last few days of my stay, nothing else happened except that carcass of the moose was picked up by someone. Nothing left at the scene. I checked with the local and asked him if there were any bears or wolves that far south, just to confirm that what I already knew. He replied no. Besides all that, I forgot to mention that the creature casually went off running on 2 legs. To this day, even though it has gotten better, I feel paranoid, even around familiar places like my house, yard, and whatnot.
All right, we say thank you to the Swamp Dweller for taking us to the great country of Norway, searching for Bigfoot or some other types of cryptids. Swamp Dweller is here every Monday through Friday night, taking us on an adventure of spooky stories. If you want to sign up for Swamp Dweller yourself, all you got to do is go to youtube.com/Swamp Dweller Reads, and you got thousands of stories to listen to on a nightly basis. All right, let's get to it. It's time.
Nobody's gonna know.
They're gonna know.
UFO Report. Tim Cedar is here for the UFO Report, freshly back from the beautiful state of Utah, where he's been running around the desert there, chasing UFOs and weird snakes and all sorts of oddities. Tim, how you doing, man?
Good. Tired, but good. How about yourself, buddy? It's been a while.
It has been a while, but we're glad to have you back, man. And back on this side of the West Coast here, and talk about your adventure there for a little bit, man.
Right. Survival of the fittest is what it was. 9 days deep in the heart of the mountains of Utah in the Uinta Basin. Took a team of 5 with me this time, and we had massive amounts of success. Tons of data to weed through. lots of video, and lots of stories, of interesting events. So that is to come. We are working hard on compiling that. I'm going to have a documentary out really quickly. So we'll have this out and ready for all of your viewers and the whole world here very soon. And then we start up on the next one, and that's where we'll be going live.
Want to ask you, what's the purpose of this? For people who may not know, what's the purpose?
So we do have a goal, a long-term goal, but the immediate purpose is to have transparency and data for people that are interested on the topic. We're investigating not just UFO, but in fact, the phenomenon in general. So it's not limited to the skies. We're finding that it relates to things like electromagnetic frequency and things that can be measured here on the ground. I mean, the goal is to prove this with proof and data. That is our goal. And along with that proof and data, we hope to take that to the next level and present it to Congress, along with some helpful people that are going to dig into the truth and the history and try and come up with parts of cases that haven't been discovered before, evidentiary proof, and take it to Congress.
Okay, so the idea behind this is a scientific filming movement that you have created with people like Terry Hall and others who are deemed trying to get some of the best evidence you possibly can in a hotbed, which is northeastern state of Utah. Am I correct?
Beautifully put. Thank you. That's really very concise. That's our first location. We've been asked to come to some other locations, and we're discussing that as a group. But we hope to be working with Skinwalker Ranch. We hope to be working with a few other hotspots that are pretty widely known, one in Florida, one up here in Oregon. And then individuals that have sightings, if they're around our mobile lab, the Starliner, we would be able to get boots on the ground investigation on something that happens to us in real time. And so the idea is that we get there with our live cams and we get them up and running, and people will see the investigation as it happens in real time, and they'll be able to see our results in real time. And that would also be, live cameras on the sky. So if people are watching, they can contact us and let us know. So it's kind of an interactive project that's not limited just to the people that are there. It's also very much in the hands of the people that are interested, the public. And so that is where we're at. We'll be out there again next month, so we'll keep you posted. We did have some glitches getting live, but Starlink worked wonderfully. So all of our tests were conclusive that we can do this. There was a part that I needed that I could not find in Vernal. I will be going back with that part. So I will be live next time. No problem for everyone to watch.
Very cool. Now, Tim, where do you plan on taking all of this evidence? I mean, yes, the one thing I love about you guys is that you want to do it for the public. And the public, as you know, and we've talked about on this show many a time, the public has a right to know what is going on in the sky above. They really do. But for you, what is the goal with this? Why do this?
Well, I mean, very much on a personal level, I'm looking for answers, for an experience that my family and I had in 2019. That's my number one motivation, obviously. But my frustration in my situation was that I wasn't able to get very clear answers from the people I was talking to. So I was like, if I was ever to do this, I would want to know every detail. And so I'm making it that way for everyone else. So there's no frustration over anything that we do. And it's very much personal. I'm very clear on it. I'm not looking for like financial gain by this. This is very much an investigation for the truth. And the only way to do it is to look for evidence myself. And so that's what I'm doing personally. And everyone that's involved is doing the same thing there too. answer a personal question, and I encourage that. And people that come to these events are volunteers and very much on their own journey, which I encourage, and I simply document as a documentarian. I'm there filming most of the time, other people investigating. So that's my job, right? And then I bring on investigators that are professionals or people that have a deep interest. You don't have to be, certified to investigate UFO. So anyone can do it.
All right. So for your personal journey, what do you want to get out of this?
So again, answers, but I would also like to take it to the next level. So any evidence and data that we retrieve that is satisfactory to other skeptical minds and peers, anything that is valuable, I hope to collate and take to Congress. I mean, that is really my goal, is to make this go to the next level, and no more of the fishing for the frame that has the little silver disc in it anymore. We would go with hard data, prepared professionally in a way that Congress would be able to understand, and presented in a way from the people that either collected it or can represent it properly, with a good explanation for what that data is and what it means.
So what's the difference between what you're doing and the government is currently doing?
Well, I don't know what the government's doing, right? And we don't know exactly what they're doing to investigate. But what I'm doing is going to be transparent. You'll know every little thing that my investigators are doing, what we collect and how we collected it. And, every time we found something, I sent it off to people that could give me their opinion. My ex-professors and university professors that I went to school with, people that Dave Mason got a chunk. Dave Altman has seen a lot of our, so peer group. I'm looking for it to be, scrutinized by my peer group and anyone for that matter. I know you're Science Bob. You have a friend with Science Bob McGuire. I encourage that data get to him. Anyone that's interested, really, I'm not holding it back. That's the whole point behind this, is there are no walls to my data. And as soon as I have a website up and running, everyone's going to be able to see it.
You're more of a nuts and bolts kind of guy. Yet there was some woo stuff that seemed to happen while you were there. How do you deal with that, Mr. Nuts and Bolts?
Well, I have data behind most of that quote unquote woo stuff. So there were things that happened that are unexplainable, but it was, I had so many people there, we were witnessing it as a group. So although some of that won't be really, highlighted because I don't have the data, there were some things that were strange and I can't explain, but that's kind of part of the program. There do seem to be glitches in everything, whether it's, some of the data collection devices. We had glitches with electrical power surges and outages that were mysterious to the time that we were doing research. A lot of this stuff was not repeatable, and that was also frustrating. So the bits that were repeatable, we really dug into, and some of that was in EMF, and some of that was in like multi-spectrum video and FLIR video. A lot of the information that we have still right now is just being processed. I mean, literally got home yesterday, and some of you know how I spent yesterday. So, I really haven't had a chance to even really go over it. There's so much, but I have a ton of volunteers that are within my peer group that I've mentioned that have volunteered to kind of hash through it. I'm really trying to stay out of that at this point. I feel that my job is done, and I would love for the people that are professional to take that data and see what they come up with, rather than me being the force behind it. I'm just a member of this group, and I initiated it, but really, I don't take ownership of it. This is all of our information. It's yours and mine. So I'm ready to share it. I'm just at a point right now where I need to collate what's important, what's not, and try and weed out some of that stuff so that I don't waste the time of people that, you know, are just going to look at the good stuff. I only want to share the good stuff. So the rest is just not important or relevant. But yeah, so I'm going to weed it out and start sharing.
Very cool. And the importance, once again, of keeping this open to the public domain where they could actually watch your cameras live and where they can actually be a part of it by attending and watching and viewing everything that's going on.
Yeah, that's hugely important. And I was really, that was really the only thing that didn't happen on this first step project. So Project Starlight is, you know, fully in force right now. We know what we need to do for next month. And we actually invite people to come to Phenomenon. I think, is it September or October, but we will be there either way for that event. And we will have the Starliner at the Blind Frog Ranch outpost in Vernal for people to peruse and come walk through and check out what we're doing. So I'm trying to make this as accessible as possible and transparent as possible and hands-on for everyone as possible. So again, I do encourage people to contact us. Terry Hall has set up an email, and maybe he can put it in the chat here. People can reach out to us if they're interested in getting involved or questions, looking to interview any of the members of our research team that I'll make public now with their permission. And you guys can talk to them about their experiences, and I've encouraged them all to talk freely. We're not holding anything back except for our exact location, which was asked by the landowner to keep that relatively quiet. Although in my documentary, I will be showing a topographical map of the area because it's absolutely relevant to some of the data that we're going to present. Because there was a massive meteorite strike right there. And so we needed to consider that when we were taking EMF readings. And so I want to show that and explain that and how we worked around that. Because we were finding debris of this meteorite everywhere and it was throwing off our EMF detectors. So it's relevant. Anyways, yeah, did that answer your question, Bud? I'm sorry. I kind of got off track there.
90 seconds to go. What was the weirdest thing you guys caught out in that area at Blind Frog Ranch?
Oh, the weirdest thing I have data for is what I would consider what looked like a large X in the sky over us at the time that we had a power fluctuation and some weirdness on your show. And that giant X was caught with a FLIR camera and a multi-spectrum camera. And I was also able to get EMF readings at the time that were a little bit higher than normal.
Massive and what did that mean?
Well, I mean, it looked like a pulsing X that kind of at the intersection seemed to open and then close. Perhaps, I mean, if you want to call it, what it looked like was a big X portal, like a portal or a tear in the sky or something like that. And it ripples open and closed, and it was there for 30 minutes. During that 30 or more, about 35 minutes, and during that time we had a lot of strangeness going on. A lot of it I don't have data for, but some I do, and that's the part I can talk about comfortably.
Excellent. Tim Senor will be back with the UFO report as it continues on after the break here at the bottom of the hour. And when we return, what's NORAD saying about UFOs? Do they want them? Do they want to track them? Well, we know they're getting the Canadian data. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Stay tuned. There you go.
Yeah, buddy, I'm sorry I'm on Wi-Fi, so it might be a little glitchy. How am I coming through?
As long as the audio comes through great, that's all I care about. Yeah, I don't care about the video. I care about the audio.
All right. Is it patchy or?
No, right now you're perfect.
Oh, okay. All right, good.
Handsome as ever.
All right. Yeah, I had a shave.
What's that like?
Yeah, I don't know. It was rough, actually. Might have nicked myself here and there. But I am a little beat down, my friend. A little bit beat down. It's been a rough 9 days.
I hear you. Because you're a party animal.
Yeah, I'm a monster. I'm an absolute monster.
Hey, I hung out with you in Vegas, man. I went to bed like a good Christian kid, and here you were. I'm going to go gamble a little bit more.
Did you hear about? Wait, what did you hear?
I was with you.
Yeah, but I didn't tell you what I won, did I?
No.
Yeah. Well, I did tell a couple other people, and I wasn't sure if it had gotten out. The minute you went to bed, I won $500, and I wasn't going to tell you because I thought it might ruin your trip.
No, not at all, dude. That's fantastic.
Okay. Well, there you go, everyone. You're witnessing Dave hear some.
Yeah, I mean, you could have bought me breakfast next morning, you jerk. But
that's great. That's the first thing you think of. You're not like, oh, you should have got your kids something. You're like, breakfast for me. What a guy. Oh, I fucking love you, dude. So, hey, Grantavius did a great job covering for me, man. I must thank him very much.
Yeah, you'll buy him dinner, but you won't take me for breakfast after winning $500 in Vegas. Yeah.
That's why I didn't want to tell you, because I knew you'd demand sausage. Oh, what a guy. Or is it bacon? Canadian bacon? Doesn't bacon... Hey, I have a question.
Does Canadian bacon is just slices of thin ham.
Does Canadian bacon have bones in it?
No.
It shouldn't.
No, there's no such thing as Canadian bacon, people. No such thing.
Well, if it comes from Canada, it's a bit Canadian.
It doesn't come from Canada. You guys just had to give us something.
No, you slap maple syrup on it and call it Canadian. Anything with maple flavor is Canadian. And I must compliment Canada on going public with their support of cannabis by putting it on their flag. I think it's fantastic, and I love that you have it behind you. I think it's great. Medicinal cannabis, people.
Maple leaf.
Medicinal cannabis. Oh, it's a maple leaf. I thought it was in support of cannabis.
No.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah, look at Bombshell Bomber here. You won a bunch of money and didn't spoil Dave? What kind of animal are you, little Timmy?
Well, I didn't think of it that way at the time. It's just he hadn't won anything, and he was like bummed about it.
I wasn't bummed.
Because, well, you seemed like maybe a little like.
Whatever happens. I go in with
he goes, the minute you walked away, I was like, bam. It was like, oh man, really? And I was like, oh, okay. I can't tell Dave. There's no way. No way I can tell Dave.
It was like when Enzo at our Vegas party won like I think $2,500.
Nice.
Oh yeah. We were raising his hand in victory.
Oh, Enzo came to your party? Okay.
Yeah.
I know who you're talking about. That guy's cool. Yeah.
Hey, there's the scowling Greg O'Brien.
Oh, he's here. All right. He scowls in real life to everyone. He's an absolute peach. You can never tell with him. He doesn't show his hand. He's got a poker face all the time. It's just grumpy. It's fantastic.
Sure.
But he chain smokes. Shouldn't chain smoke. Greg O'Brien, you shouldn't smoke.
Stunning Jessica S. How you doing? We got 20 seconds. Thank you, Chris. NoCal, Lala, G West, Thomas, and Rich for the super chats. Very much appreciate it. And we're going to get going with the final half hour. If you haven't given us a thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways, yes, help us with the algorithms. Let's do this.
That Bitcoin guy has to be Paul Heineken.
Let's continue on with the UFO report here momentarily. My name is Dave Scott. Good to have you with us. Really appreciate you. I want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/spaced out radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with little Timmy Senor back from Utah, along with the scowling Greg O'Brien, as Greg's in the audience, and we are hanging out with the UFO report. A little bit of news coming out of NORAD and their interceptions of UFOs. Because remember, Tim, we have banned UAP on this show. Banned it.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. It's too bad that the government hasn't taken up that same opinion. Right? But I'll tell you what, just to give you a quick update on this, I know we've covered this topic before, but I wanted to bring it back in because I've got a new perspective for you. And you're going to like it. So, though the Pentagon has changed the name and scope of the new organization tasked with overseeing U.S. government's growing efforts to track unidentified aerial phenomenon, or UFO, the head of North American Aerospace Defense Command, or NORAD, who is actually the guy in charge of defending America's airspace, says it's been business as usual when it comes to his command mission. And a quote from him comes, "I have not changed or been asked to change any of my posture, taskings, or anything." Air Force General Glenn D. Van Herk, the dual-hatted commander of both NORAD and U.S. Northern Command, told reporters Thursday during a roundtable discussion at the Aspen Security Forum. Asked by the Washington Post reporter Shane Harris about whether there has been any changes in terms of homeland protection as a result of more attention being paid to the UFO phenomenon, as the Pentagon now refers to it. You like that I changed that for you, audience? It's actually UAP. Van Herk then says, no, the answer may seem disconnected, considering the efforts of the Pentagon claims are being made to take the issue seriously and to mitigate any potential risk to national security presented by UFO. Then again, the Air Force has been notoriously unforthcoming when it comes to this controversial topic. Now, the reason I really wanted to bring this up again today, Dave, with you is because this is starkly, transparently the same position that was taken when the Condon report came out. Now, you remember they had a conclusion before they even started taking notes on this report. And again, we see another person coming forward representing NORAD and already drawing a conclusion to something before they even have the facts presented. Dave, turn your angry switch on. I can see you boiling. Do you agree with me or what? Is this This is so similar to something that they played before. How are we going to take this?
Well, the one thing we need to understand about NORAD is it's a joint task force operation between Canada and the United States. And they are based at a Cheyenne Mountain out of Denver or out of Colorado. And they are literally reporting this for two militaries. Two, not one. It's not just about the United States. it's about Canada too. Now, a lot of people will sit there and say, well, who gives a care about Canada? You know, they got 3 straw boats, 1 half-sinking submarine, and about 12 TA-6B trainer airplanes from World War II as their fighter jets, right? And I'm teasing there. And I mean that for my wonderful Canadian soldiers that are out there that protect us on a daily basis.
Okay.
But when you're dealing with 2 countries, that's 2 sets of reports, Tim. And 2 sets of reports means a lot more stress. Because I know personally, talking to RCMP officers, that all Canadian reports that are filed to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police head to NORAD. That means personal information of Canadian citizens getting in the hands of NORAD over UFO reports. Then you have to deal with what's happening in the United States. And of course, this has become very political in the United States. It's become very, very hot button topic regarding national security, security of the air skies above the United States. Are they evil? Are they ours? Are they someone else's? Or are they benevolent? And the point that I'm getting at...
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
Well, I'm confused as to why the position remains the same. As new data is being presented, how could it possibly be business as usual with NORAD?
Well, first off, you're also dealing with NORAD, which is mainly run by the United States Air Force. Right? Air Force hasn't said squat about this topic. They don't want to. They don't want to give it up. People need to remember there is huge competition between the 4 branches of the military, leaving out the Coast Guard and Space Force. There is huge competition between the Air Force, the Navy, the Army, and the Marines. Well, the Marines, not so much, but those 3, the Army, Navy, and Air Force. And they all want to defeat each other. They all want to one-up each other. They all want to embarrass each other. Therefore, I think it's ego-driven. The Air Force has maintained a silence on reporting unidentified aerial phenomena, or what you call that, and I call UFOs. And therefore, I think that they are, how can we put it? They are just following suit with the orders that they are given. They may not be the right orders, but when you are collecting reports for 2 countries, now Canada has blended military, so we are the Canadian Armed Forces, which means the Army, Navy, and Air Force are all under one banner, where yours are split up in the United States as separate entities. Okay, so you're dealing with 2 countries, potentially 5 branches of 2 countries' militaries. Why give up the secrets? I'm not saying it's right, Tim. Should be angry over it. Should be angry. But that's what's happening, I believe.
And I think the recreation of the names, AOI, MSG, Arrow, them considering and redetailing each time really throws up red flags as to whether they're taking it seriously or not, or if they're narrowing down on what the true topic is. That makes it a little bit tough. But when somebody as a spokesman comes forward and predetermines what he's going to have as a conclusion and recognizes that his job hasn't changed whatsoever over a topic that is about the airspace over our country being incurred upon without our military's knowledge or understanding, without our permission, quote unquote, I feel like that is a huge overestimation of the information that you've been given, because whatever he's been told has given him the confidence to not worry about this. And I feel that maybe he's either misinformed, ill-informed, or knows something that we don't, because to not take a position on something like this is a huge mistake, perhaps. I don't like saying that, but I assume that he knows something we don't, Dave. And what do you think that could possibly be if they're not preparing for something of this nature?
Well, I would sit here and say that they've got nothing to prepare for until orders are given. Because the U.S. Air Force, no matter what, they're going to try and stay silent on this. They don't want to talk about it. Therefore, if they don't want to talk about it, it doesn't exist except in the background. And you know they're collecting data. 100% they're collecting data. Whether it's from Canada or the United States, they're collecting it. They probably just don't know what they're going to do with it yet. Maybe that's up to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Maybe that's up to the president or Arrow or whoever. It's still disappointing that we get this wall of silence. Tim, let's move on to your second story of the night because we only got about 7-8 minutes here. And I'm excited about this one, to be honest. The Pentagon UFO videos and alien invasion warning sounds right out of are a cover-up for something more sinister. Dun, dun, dun. Are you really buying? Are you really buying the alien invasion? This is what Dr. Stephen Greer has been talking about the last few years.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've been asked a few times about this, and I find it interesting. I know it's called, what is it? Project Blue Light? Streamline? Something? I forget. But it is something to be aware of. Project Bluebeam, that's what it's called. And Project Bluebeam was the false flag alien invasion theory that I don't think was created by Stephen Greer, but was talked about by him. And he seems to have a lot of data and evidence to support Project Bluebeam as being conceptually something that the government may use against the public, which is basically duping them into believing that aliens are invading the Earth. Do I think that that is realistic? No, I don't. I don't think so in any way, shape, or form, honestly. And that's just based on the reality that I live in. And that's my opinion. Now, that doesn't mean by any stretch that Project Bluebeam couldn't occur and that we could all be duped into believing that we're actually being invaded, where it's actually our government disguising and parading themselves as aliens. And so it's possible, it's possible that they would do that, but would our public perceive it that way? Who knows? Because as you know, Dave, all of our listeners come from different backgrounds and have different beliefs. And they would perceive a light in the sky one way, I would perceive it another way, and you would perceive it even another way different from that. So for us to assume that people will consider this an alien invasion, I can't imagine a headline that's going to look like that. I really don't. So I have a really hard time with that. I do understand that, national defense has its own agenda. And, they've obviously tried to propagate the concept of aliens through the release of all of the Navy videos, to the Stars Academy, propagated that concept at one point as well, putting it out there as a possibility. So the public has little nuggets of information that could lead them to believe that that's possible. But it would take quite a bit. I've heard concepts of using holographic technology even to dupe the public. So who knows what we've seen, these giant pyramids that spin above the Capitol. Could that have been a hologram just there to dupe our public to think that possibly there's an invasion? Who knows? I don't know, Dave. What do you think?
Well, we have heard the fact from a lot of the conspiratorial side of ufology that they believe there is some sort of false flag coming. We also have heard publicly from people like Luis Elizondo that this is a 50-50 split. The religious side is absolutely petrified of the potential alien invaders, and the other side is very excited to see what comes along, the progressive side. So that is concerning. The other thing that is concerning about this is the idea that what happens if this false flag information is true? What happens? What does this say to the United States of America? The people of the world? Where are they going with this? Is it a lockdown? Is it a communistic thing? Is it to try and get more money? Because money dictates everything. What does this mean?
Right.
That's the question.
Well, we know it's a form of mind control. It's a form of fear mongering and control. So any of these things considering themselves or labeled as a false flag would be mind control. When you have people infiltrating groups and controlling the narrative or trying to influence the narrative, that is mind control. These are all things that are done to control how we think and how we act. I mean, what we buy, how we eat, how we live. So it's no doubt whatsoever that they would try and slot something like this into our pre-designed belief system, right? We all probably understand in this group that UFO isn't going to fit into any pre-designed belief system if it shows itself, right? So understanding that, we are working with a government that is taking that gray area and running with it and using that gray area to control people's fears and to potentially cover up their dollars and their spending with a false flag narrative. It makes absolute sense. But would it be carried out on a level that, Project Bluebeam is expressing? That's dangerous. You're talking about running in the streets, terror. Like, I don't see that happening. I really don't. I think it being interpreted by individuals on their belief system, internalized, and then looking up and waiting for the facts to happen. Like if it's real, you'll see it. People aren't just going to read about what's happening around the world without seeing something factual. If it's happening in Russia, we should hear from Russia and let them show us that data. If it's happening in Utah, then a team should be out there recording that data and expressing. But I don't see an invasion, quote unquote, worldwide, such as Project Bluebeam, ever taking place.
And Tim, that's why you're brilliant. Right there. Thank you, Tim, for the UFO report. We'll talk to you in a couple nights' time. Let's get over to Shirky Poo's news.
What time is it?
All right, let's do this thing as we're going to start off with a man, an IT engineer, wants to spend millions of dollars hunting for about $235 million in Bitcoin in a new Port Wales landfill. 37-year-old James Howells got rid of a hard drive 10 years ago, forgetting it had about 8,000 Bitcoins on it in the early stages of the currency's development. Looking for the hard drive would translate to a huge manual task of digging through thousands of tons of compacted landfill. However, the city council says excavating the site could pose an ecological risk. We have statutory duties which we must carry out in managing a landfill site, a council spokesperson said. Part of this managing the ecological risk to the site and the wider area, Mr. Howell's proposal pose significant ecological risk which we cannot accept and indeed are prevented from considering by the terms of our permit. Howells, however, believes he has the funding and expertise to do it in an environmentally friendly way. We've basically got a well-rounded team of various experts with various expertise, which when we all come together, are capable of completing the task to a very high standard. Howells says if he finds it, he would give 10% of the proceeds to fund a range of crypto-based projects. Talk about a man of desperation. Well, I don't know if this is art or not, but an Australian artist threw a McDonald's pickle, first pulled it off the burger, and threw it up on the ceiling. Then priced the so-called artwork at 10,000 Australian dollars. Matthew Griffin showed off the piece at New Zealand gallery Michael Lett last month. The work, aptly titled Pickle, featured the single slice of ketchup-coated pickle from the cheeseburger on the gallery's stark white ceiling. Perhaps the art here was that it never hit the ground. The Museum of Contemporary Art describes Griffin's work as a combination of wry humor with a do-it-yourself sensibility in his sculptures, photography, videos, and installations. Would you pay 10 grand for that? For a McDonald's pickle? Here's an interesting one in Toronto. Angelo Domingo spent some serious coin to put up a large billboard at Yonge and Dundas Streets for 2 weeks, offering to trade a piece of black diamond cheese string in a plastic packaging. If my wife finds out how much I put into this, she's going to kill me, he said, unwilling to say what it cost him. Domingo said the billboard went up late on the night of August 1st, and his wife, who is a bookworm, doesn't like computers, still doesn't know. Accepting trades for one cheese string marble flavor, still in original package, no lowballs. I know what I have, reads the ad. Domingo lost count after 200 trade offers, but among his favorites are a box of Lucky Charms cereal, only the marshmallows. Oh, God, that would be tough to turn down. And landscaping his front yard, the latter offer coming in Friday morning. I was really thinking about the landscaping, Domingo said. I feel like my wife would be pretty happy if she came home and she had a new yard. He's also missed 275 phone calls on people trying to bid on this cheese string. It's our world. You can't make this up. You really can't. Thank you to Shirky Poo for the news. Thank you to Tim Senor for the UFO report. Our band Swamp Dweller for another spooky story. And R Keith Andrews for a great show tonight. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Spreaker, Facebook, Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter, hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friend, we shall ride again. The seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we got room for them too. Good night. We is clear. It's a good show.
Cool. Great
Very
show.
good show.
Hey, buddy. Thanks for talking about the project. I appreciate that.
Well, Tim, that's what I do, my friend. That's what I do. I'm that
Indeed.
guy. I'm starstruck by you. Even though you're follically challenged, you're a good-looking dude.
I love that. Follically challenged. I'll have to remember that. That's great. So, did you hear about Tom DeLonge and that new Twitter thing stuff where they're talking about shadow people and the possibilities thereof?
They should be talking about it because all of it is part of the phenomena. But
Right.
DeLong, ever since he hooked up with Peter Levenda about 8-9 years ago, he has been convinced that everything is demonic. He's the moron who is going on stating that we need to put nukes in space to protect us from the evil aliens.
Right. I was wondering, maybe, and I'd heard this idea about shadow people. Do you think that it could be a remote viewer or not? Is that not possible? That wouldn't look like a shadow person if that was a remote viewer.
It could. It could. Honestly, it could.
Just curious. I thought about that. It's an interesting topic. And we've had a few guests on your show that have talked about them. I'm sure they're real. It's really interesting. I'm just wondering how they're connected to the phenomenon and in what way exactly.
Well, that's easy. Phenomena is everything.
Right. Some shadow people experiencers have had aggressive shadow people experiences, which I thought was interesting. Sorry, I just got a funny text there. I am curious about that.
Well, look, there's aggression in everything. Nobody says that the phenomena doesn't have an attitude at times.
Right. Well, it's different every single time too. From at least my experience. No two experiences have been the same, and the perception of that experience is different. It's all in the eye of the beholder. So like somebody standing next to me may not see exactly what I'm seeing. Even though we film the same thing, even the data that we film doesn't look the same, which is strange. So a ball of light filmed by the same camera by two different operators looks different. How do you explain that? It's really bizarre, and it's not necessarily perspective, and it's not necessarily optics. What if even that is in the eye of the beholder, and even the capture of the data is somehow it's very strange. I don't know. We're getting there. But anyways, yeah, man, what do you think?
I'm thinking of a good example. Did you ever watch The Big Bang Theory?
Sure. Yeah. Great show.
Where Sheldon was talking about him and my crush, Kaylee Cuoco, were talking about string theory and how it's all bundled up in knots. And Kaylee Cuoco says, well, why don't you just straighten out the knots? And he's like, well, it's not really that simple. You can't do it that way. I'm paraphrasing. Right. But then he figured out maybe it's sheets that changes everything. Right? Maybe they're not strings, but sheets. So my advice to you with the videos where you can get the same orb, but on two different angles or two different shapes, is maybe they're sheets.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So in other words, what I'm saying in my way, you're looking at it wrong.
Right. Well, for another example, I was standing next to somebody that wasn't able to see something that I was seeing in the sky. Now, I wouldn't call myself an experiencer necessarily, but I have seen UFO before. And I think I may have been the only person there, with the exception of one that has an, a UFO experience. So I guess what my question is there an initiation at some point, and so certain people see it and others just don't? Because I'll tell you what, Greg O'Brien saw nothing while we were there. He was our onboard skeptic, and he had no experiences per se. I think he may have had one, but it was very much in connection with something just personal. He had no phenomenon experience while we were there, but he's the only one, right? And I mean, things were going on around him that he didn't perceive. Now, I don't know how to take that because he was looking. It's not from a lack of looking. His camera was always up, but everyone else documented things and he didn't.
So you can look, but if you're not paying attention, it's not going to work.
Maybe.
How could I pick up? Okay, how could I pick up craft from a little room in British Columbia, 1,600 miles away? Okay, and
That's
he's
right,
getting
you were a part of our project, sitting in your chair right there. That's incredible. I mean, at the same time that you were calling it in, we have the timestamp of objects coming into our field view cameras. And so with multiple objects coming, we had multiple captures on multiple devices at the same time. I have no explanation for that.
1 second here. Tony Montana. Keith's interview was possibly one of the worst I've seen on the subject, Dave. I'm astonished that this even passes for woo. It's so idiotic, and I've lost much respect for this channel because of it. Wonderful,
Ouch.
Tony. Thank you for your advice. And Keith will be on next month because we absolutely love him here. Learn to have some fun. Learn to enjoy yourself. We do it once a month where we allow ourselves to sit back and relax and enjoy. You don't have to believe. You don't have to believe Tim. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to believe Keith. All right? But we're allowed to have fun. All right? So that decision's up to you. Don't want to see you leave.
Taking shots. Yeah.
Don't want to see you leave, but you don't get to say that to me. Well, actually, you can, but I will fire back. So, sorry you don't like Keith, but he'll be on next month.
I like Keith. I think Keith's cool. He's got a great hair and beard combination, too.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
How can you not love that? So, if anyone has questions for me about UAPRG, which is the name of the group, or Project Starlight, or what our plans are, you can put them in caps in the chat. I'm happy to answer them. Or any questions for Dave on the phenomenon, because he's your guy. Chuck.
Oh, by the way, under the understanding of what Tony just said, what I did for you guys is impossible. I never did it.
Right. Well, we actually have data to support that. I mean, it would be a hell of a coincidence.
No, doesn't matter.
A hell of a coincidence that you would name the exact direction that we needed to point our cameras. I mean, we had to change all of our cameras because of Dave. It was like a thing. But when we did it, we captured. I don't know how to explain it. And I'm not sure what we saw either, by the way. Maybe what was it? Maybe you know. They're your guys. I mean, it was like snow fell. It was so many. It was like snow fell out of the sky. And I don't know if that's what you said was going to happen, but that's what we captured.
No, I never said that. Terry was just giving me a play-by-play of all the lights that showed up and when they were merging together and going from there. Hello to Beelzebrad and to Rui from Portugal for coming in late. John Slaymaker, thank you. Yeah. Oh shit! What did I do here? Hold on.
Cool.
Oh, I did do that. Look at that. I'm way ahead of the game. No, I think it's wonderful what you guys are doing. You got a good team out there, buddy. You do.
We're excited
Even
to show it.
Greg Ryan, who is living on Twinkies and Ho-Hos the entire time.
I can semi-vouch for
Twinkies,
that.
Ho-Hos, Pepsi, and cigarettes.
Definitely cigarettes. Chain smoking full. Absolutely. And so really, I'm going to dig into this stuff and start feeding it out to the website, and that'll be up and running in the next couple of days. And then I'm going to be getting all the good stuff out of the video and compiling it for a documentary that I'm going to get out in the next month to 2 months, like ASAP. And so I'm going to work with a couple other editors to do that.
Awesome. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Good to have you, though.
It's fun to be with you, buddy. But I am melting, and so I probably will be disappearing here shortly.
Oh, dude,
but
go.
Before I go, I'm going to show your audience a still of that X that we caught with a FLIR camera, because I have it on my phone and I'd love to share it. And if anyone has seen something like this with their FLIR camera, or have an explanation, because we've ruled out, just to be clear, with FLIR, it expresses heat and it's reading heat. So if there was something in the sky, it would have to read heat. So something like a contrail would be cold and would read purple, right? So heat reads orange or white in FLIR with the settings we used. So I will show you the X.
That's very cool.
It's not perfect. And so this is just a still from the video. And that video is going to be available in its full length here in the next day or two for everyone. So awesome. Little teaser there for you. Raw data,
There's
guys.
A lot of pareidolia in that film, dude.
In which one? The video? You haven't seen it? No,
but the photo you just showed. It's really awesome.
Oh, right. Yeah. Pareidolia for sure. Here, let's see if I can just do this. Stand by. This will make it much more clear. Here we go. Whoops. Come on. Here you go. There. How's that? This is the video. And so straight lines don't happen in nature. That's not something that you should be seeing with FLIR above you.
Very cool. Very cool. That is amazing.
And there's the ground. And then I go back up to it to show that it's obviously from the heat, not something that is like created. I couldn't have faked this with a FLIR. There's no way. And so where those lines intersected was actually pulsating open and closed. And this took place over 30 minutes and then just disappeared. And we actually watched it disappear. And while it was happening, we had power fluctuations in the house and other weirdness live on Dave's show, which we have talked about a little bit, but we will talk about more later. I don't know if I'm comfortable talking about with some of it, but others from the team definitely will. And they are welcome to. So, but yeah, this is just the first part. So yeah, we got plenty of fun stuff. This is just one bit.
Awesome.
And yeah, I'm sure you've got remote viewers in your audience. I encourage them to take a look at what this was. If you have psychics in your audience, I encourage them to take a look at what this was, and put it, maybe in a message to Dave in the notes, the show notes or something, because we're definitely curious and we're open to all aspects of this. We're not just, science, like hard science people. We are into the fringe. We did experiment with the fringe science out there, talking boards, listening to EVP, using EMF detectors to communicate potentially. Things that you don't normally expect to see at a UFO investigation, we did, and tried to collate the data from it and try to make sense of it, while we were also running other hard experiments. So it wasn't just woo, quote unquote, because I know you love that word here. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. We wrapped everything into this investigation, and if anyone has advice for the next one for next month, we will be back out in the same location. And on Skinwalker, if people have advice on what to look for, let us know. We'll do it, and we'll share it with you. Like, we'll run an experiment that you want us to run. Does that make sense? Let us know about something you're curious about. We'll look into it for you. We're already researching for a few people that have been curious about certain aspects or certain geological locations that they've seen on Google Maps. Let us know. We'll look at it, and we'll let you know. It's going to be fun. And it's hands-on for everyone, so please. And Ann Palmer, thanks for anything. I feel like you may have some insight. Please share it. We love insight. So
Always.
continue. Yeah. You've got a great chat. I love your chat.
Thanks, buddy.
They're so great and supportive.
They really are good people.
They sure are.
Even when they rip me a new one because they hate.
Though. Hey, opinions are great. We need that feedback, right? Feedback is important.
Oh yeah,
Dave's interactive show. Hey man, I know what I wanted to tell you. So I was perusing your store, and you've got tons of great swag in there, but I noticed that you don't have Anonymous Rex swag in there. And so I don't know if you like that alien detail that I have, but totally willing to share it and put on an SOR t-shirt on my alien if you're wanting to chuck him in your UFO report section.
Talking business here.
Yeah. If your fans want some
I'm a Rex fan.
Anonymous Rex stuff, which, by the way, we're going to have so much stuff coming out. I'm going to put all of this data on Anonymous Rex, which is my YouTube channel. So every bit of this that is relevant and good will get dumped on there. Just the raw stuff. I'm not even going to bother cutting it. So when the documentary comes out, you guys will be like, I already saw it. But I want that to be available to everyone in its raw form. And the documentary is going to be all the highlights with a narrative and some, obviously, lots of extras, because we had some great liaisons that worked with us while we were there, some great interviews. And some of the people that are directly working up there came and talked with us, and we captured some really cool stuff. And I'll tell just this one little bit before I go. While we were up there, our project coordinator, Terry Hall, went on a hike and discovered a snake, right? And so there shouldn't be reptiles like this up there at this time of the year, perhaps a rattlesnake here and there. But there's been this strange influx of large reptiles, right? In particular, snakes up on Blind Frog Ranch, and it seemed to have come from the underground cave system, right? And there were 10-inch wide tracks at one point, which is about a 15-foot snake. Now Terry comes across this little guy right next to a larger track, and this little snake was translucent and had diamond-shaped scales, black markings above his eyes, and he had venom releasers under his chin. So I don't quite know what the term is. I've forgotten. But this was a poisonous, venomous snake, about 3 feet long. And It may not have been able to see because this reptile did not react to anything when it was waved in front of it, but the minute that it was touched with a stick on its tail, it shot off rapidly. So right now, nobody that we've shown the video to can place a name or what kind of snake this might be. It's not definitely native to that area. We're thinking it may have come from the cave system that the miners recently had opened up. And we're just very much in the research stage, but potentially this is a snake that hasn't been seen before. So if nothing else, our team may have discovered a new snake. And if we get to name it, I don't know. What do you think? A spaced out radio snake? The Dave Scott snake? We'll name it after you, buddy.
Little Timmy Senor.
The little Timmy Senor snake? Oh, that's perfect.
Little Timmy Senor snake.
You're such a joker. It'll be a horrible name. Anyways, I'm sure that it'll get named by somebody that appropriate, but pretty cool. You know, it's one of those things that made the trip even stranger, you know. So yeah, I can show you guys a photo. Yeah, no, I'll show your team a photo because they're asking for it, and then yes, I'll dip out. So maybe someone in your audience will know. It's not that great, unfortunately. I wish that Terry had gotten the camera a little closer, but you know, maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. It's a venomous snake, right? But he did discover that it wasn't reacting to being poked at in the front. So it didn't seem like it could see. Why am I not? Here it is. Okay, here it is. Boom. I'm going to turn the brightness up all the way. And here we go. This little guy right here. Boy, it's really hard to see. But that's him. Now let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. There we go. There's the zoom in. So you can kind of see how he has strange markings. This is in Uinta Basin, Utah. So anyone have an idea of what this is? Go ahead and pop it in the chat or in the show notes.
That's a stick of dynamite that needs to be thrown beside that prick and blow him up.
Not a fan. Okay, gotcha. Right on, bud. Hey, this has been fun. I can't wait to share everything with your. What's that?
I'll call you tomorrow.
Oh yeah, definitely. You guys have a great night. Thank you very much, chat, and have a great night yourselves. Take care.
You too, buddy. We'll talk to you soon. Little Timmy Senor, everybody. That's why we call him Little. So we love him around here. It's like little Johnny Davies in the chat room. Okay, guys, I will be right back. I gotta go to the bathroom. All right. Dave is not wrestling a cobra, that's for sure. And like this. For all you who are listening in to the after hours tomorrow, I will be hosting with Danielle and Gentry. As Grant is going to a concert. I believe it's little Nicky Shaughnessy's birthday. So he's going to go light it up with his buddies, as he should, for his 23rd birthday. So I will be here tomorrow night, hanging on out with all of you. It'll be fun, because I rarely do a Saturday. And it'll be a blast. It'll be a blast. No more snakes. No more snake talk. No way, man. Let's not do it and say we did. Let's not say we did. It's going to be fun, man. Going to be fun. So I will be here tomorrow. No snakes. No snakes at all. It's terrible. I'm going to go have a snack here soon. I'm hungry. Turn this stuff off. Get ready. And block. There we go. We're all good. We are all good. I want to say a big thank you tonight to NoCal, Lala, G West, Thomas, Rich, and Chris for the amazing super chats. Big thank you to all of you tuning us all in. Everybody who gave us a thumbs up tonight. Very much appreciate it. I will see you guys tomorrow night with the After Hours. Don't forget, right before, Jessica Jones is here with Off the Trails with the Cryptid Huntress. Let's make it happen. We'll see you tomorrow night, guys. Take care.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.